thought machines could tame this land for them. That power seduced them. Made them weaker. Let their death be a warning, child. Come. That would be your final test. Trust your instincts, young one. All machine fail. But the old ways preserve our Falai people.
Uncle Arthur.
You will return as one of us. Or return not at all.
Bloodhunder will slaughter. Test is Villa. I give my offering to the All-Father. The Rikar Jotun that plagued our people. I found its lair. Bless me, Uncle.
Have you chosen exile?
I have brought down a creature that none among us has ever slaughtered.
You traded the lesson of the hunt for a quick kill with a trigger. You betrayed the old ways. Watch your tongue, child.
You are afraid of a power you do not understand.
That power enslaved us! You reject the very wisdom that kept us alive. You reject us.
I have spent 10 winters proving myself to you.
It is not my respect you must earn, young one. not wait for me.
I failed you. Forgive me.
Nay, young one. Nay. I lived to see you pass the test. It was not the gun that protected them. It was you. Perhaps there is more to the old ways than the weapon we chose. And beast none slaughter. You will be the first. Bloodhunder. The old father guides you now.
Farewell. Go now to Valhalla End.
gathered here today to celebrate in our common joy. Our love of play, and using that play to stay connected. We embrace our shared passions for gaming, competition, and taking names during these unusual times by coming together to watch these games from home. This is the Apex Legends Global Series, where the best Apex Legends competitors in the world gather together to take their shot at playing for glory, fame, and bragging rights.
What a performance!
When we last met for the ALGS Online Tournament 2, the action was calculated and brutal. When the dust settled on the death boxes, TSM showed everyone why they've been one of the most dominant Apex Legends teams in the world.
Who is going to do it, TSM?
Sliding to their 5th top place finish in a row.
Oh my god!
This championship trio seemed basically unstoppable. But today, the dropships are loading up with more challengers, all vying to knock the crown off of TSM's heads. With players like Turns from Solafide and Sorcerer from Flying Sorcerers, all looking to wipe the champion squad. But TSM, it seems, isn't sweating the competition. Will anyone have what it takes to unseat Imperial Hound and the rest of TSM? Or will they once again become Apex Legends? It's time to find out which teams are going to surprise us. Who will pull out those devious, notorious rat strats? Who is going to outshoot, outthink, and outplay their rivals? Who's pushing with R99s and PKs? And who's sitting back with the Scout? Ready up and settle in. Welcome to the Apex Legends Global Series.
Joined alongside the lovely Lulu Lovely back in Octane's room. I'm here joining you in Octane's room this time around. Lulu, how you doing?
Great. I'm super ready to see this NA portion of the online qualifiers, and I'm just so excited.
You and I both. And EU was awesome. One of the best online tournaments I think we've seen yet. The storylines were great. We couldn't have written a better story, really. The surprise ending right there as Gambit ended up taking home a first-place finish. And on the North American side, it's typically a different story. It is one team that has dominated every single online tournament to date, the first two straight. You know them very well. It's TSM. They're looking so incredibly good. We are back and, of course, sheltering in place, pushing our internet connections to the limit from our respective homes as we're gearing up for online tournament number 3. Let's go ahead and jump right into it and take a look at the schedule for the day for what you all can expect. Lulu, it's going to be an action-packed day. You saw the EU finals earlier this morning. And, of course, now, tonight in North America, big shout to any Europeans that are still up watching. It's late over there, but we're getting ready for our NA finals where we see TSM, Rogue, Sniper Abusers, NRG, Flying Saucers, so many other teams gearing up and getting ready for another NA final here, Lulu.
And I'm really excited to see everyone show up, perform, and I'm kind of hoping we see what we saw with EU, with not one single team dominating the leaderboards.
Yeah, you and I both. We can only pray for another good storyline opportunity there. As let's take a look at the format and see how everything's going to break down today. You're used to this format by now. Same exact format that we've seen in our first 2 online tournaments, the Road to the Finals. April 4th, teams played a maximum of 5 rounds. Each round featured 4 matches. After each round, teams with the highest scores advanced to the next round. So it was a single elimination tournament on Saturday. And well, guess what? The top 20 teams qualified for today, the Grand Finals, which will feature 5 straight matches today. 20 squads, 60 participants total, as you're used to in one stacked Apex Legends lobby. Of course, teams are going to earn points in each match based on placement and 1 point per kill. And in the end, the team with the highest score will be the winner of online tournament number 3 for that region. Let's take a look at the points and scoring and see how the scoring system will work for today. We mentioned 1 point per kill. First place gets 12 points. That is 12 kills worth of points. So placement is so crucial. And that's why we've seen teams like TSM dominate, Lulu, is really their consistency in placement.
Yes. Exactly. And, with this point breakdown, getting that top 1, top 2, top 3 places, 4th, 5th is big, is huge. But we did see some teams, taking over places just because they had a whole bunch of KP points, or kill points for those at home that might not know. So it really is like a perfect balance of placement points and making sure you're getting kills along the way.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great call out. If you just play for straight placement, yes, you can get 12 points per game. That's only going to get you about 40 or 50 points, which what we've seen has not been enough to come out on top. So I think kill points are crucial. And that's what's beautiful. To your point, you have an opportunity to play 2 different styles of play. You can play aggressive and play for kills and get 7 to 8 or 9 or 10 kills, which is the same thing as placing 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th place in placement. So 2 different styles of play that we'll see come true today. We know TSM has a nice blend of both. We'll see how TSM plays alongside teams like Sniper Abusers who like to play aggressive, but sometimes that aggression ends up costing them. Let's go ahead and take a look at the prizing, though. One massive announcement that was made before online tournament number 2. Prize pool was added to each region for the online tournaments. A massive shout out to EA for making this possible and allowing these players a chance to compete online amidst the current crisis and still take home an important prize pool, as they, of course, are doing this full time. A lot of pro players. First place will take home $7,200, $4,400 for second, all the way down to 10th place, who will take home $590. So top 10 will get paid. We'll, of course, tell you the story throughout the entirety of the day's broadcast to see who will finish in that top 10. I'm excited to see how it's all going to break down. Of course, not only have we had Apex Legends Global Series competitive action, we've also had some interesting in-game events. Lulu, I know we've also had the Old Ways game event. You've had a chance to watch it and see some of the action. Your thoughts on Old Ways so far?
I'm super excited. I always like these events that they do, and with the Old Ways, it's a new town takeover, just like how we got Octane's Gauntlet area. We get a new area on the map, and you actually go in and you fight these hordes of prowlers. And if you survive, you also unlock high tier loot. But you're also fighting other players on the map while battling these hordes of prowlers.
Yeah, a little bit crazy. Always fun, a little bit crazy, and a little love for Bloodhound, who, of course, got a little bit of a buff a couple months ago as well. So a lot of love being shown for Bloodhound right now. We, of course, have an awesome video in case you missed it. Let's go ahead and take a look.
All machine fail, but the old ways preserve our Falai people. You will return as one of us, or return not at all. That will be your final test. You will be the first. Blood Thunder.
The victory I will be grateful for. When we meet, I will slaughter.
It is not my respect you must earn, young one.
Old Ways coming April 7th, Lulu. How awesome did that look?
I am excited. I'm always, ready for new content, and they always do a great job bringing us some exciting content with these live events.
Yep, every step of the way. Big shout out to the marketing team. Always keeping things fresh every single season. Not only do we get to look forward to new season announcements, new legends that have been added to the game, but then we get these awesome little beats in between seasons as well. Things like this, things like during Halloween, Mirage Voyage, which came out of nowhere at the Game Awards, which was awesome. So a variety of content and things to keep things interesting along the way. Always fun. That is for sure. I'm so excited, of course, not only for the Old Ways event, but also for a little something called the Apex Legends Global Series Online Tournament number 3, which looks like it is just about ready to get kicked off here. I am so incredibly excited. We've talked about a lot of teams so far, Lulu. One team that we have not talked about much yet is a team we're going to be seeing for the first time in Online Tournament number 3. It's Complexity, and Complexity is led by Mirko. We had a chance to catch up with Mirko. Let's go ahead and take a look before we throw to our casters.
My squad would tell you sometimes I get a little reckless, and sometimes I'll push past the boundary and end up getting myself killed. My name is Ryan Amato. I go by Mirko in-game. I play for Complexity. I'm kind of known for my Pathfinder play. There's only a couple people that kind of play at my level, and it's something that I definitely take pride in.
This is one hell of a send, my friend. Oh! That's one!
I try not to let things control the situation in game. I like to try to find my ways of pushing my will on others. And so one of the greatest things that I do as an IGL is I really try to kind of force the teams into spots on the map where I want them to be, and kind of try to play mind games with others and try to kind of just impose my will in game. The character I play the most is Pathfinder. He's kind of like a robotic character that allows you to kind of grapple around like Spider-Man. A lot of fun, a lot of mechanical abilities, and kind of allows you to freely roam the map. Following my dream is probably the smartest thing I've done. I'd actually had like a very hard time kind of coming to terms with whether or not I should do esports, but about 2 years ago, I ended up actually losing my mom, and she always kind of lived her life with a lot of regret. It was kind of hard for me to see that, and I didn't want to live with that same kind of regret of not pursuing something that I really thought I was good at. My dad actually had told me that if I didn't like throw away my games and started working and going to school, then I'd have to move out. And so I ended up actually moving out. My uncle gave me a room in his house for a year to stay. I pursued esports there, and then kept bouncing around for about another 2 years until finally getting signed. Being on Complexity means kind of everything to me. For the longest time, I was trying to compete and go pro, and things kind of never fell into place for me. So I had quit, gone back to school, and Rogue picked me up, and I ended up transitioning to Apex with them. Complexity, hit me up and gave me an offer, and that was honestly the biggest blessing of all time. Being a part of the Cowboys family and being in Complexity is pretty much a dream come true, especially as a kid. Growing up playing sports, and for me to then join them and kind of really get to see everything that's happening, it's insane, it's awesome, and I hope that more companies like the Cowboys get in and start integrating with esports.
There you go. You just heard that, from Complexity's very own Mirko, and obviously what a journey, right, that he has had, and really what a journey a lot of players have had up until this point. I know, personally speaking for myself, and by the way, I'm Golden Boy. That's Bravo. Welcome so much here for NA Finals as we get ready for some incredible matches. There's just a journey, right? A lot of people go through a lot of ups and downs in this, and yes, not everyone understands esports. Not everyone gets what is capable in this world. But hey, man, so far so good for him. Am I right?
Yeah, actually, I got a chance to meet Mirko back at the preseason invitational in Poland. I love the way the guy approaches the game. Excited to see what this newer, it's not quite new anymore, but what this newer Complexity roster can do. If we take a look at where they came in 7th in their semifinal. I think, 21st in Online Tournament 2. In short, they're a team that's capable of great things, but they're on my list, and I think most viewers and your list as well, GB, of teams that are capable of great things but haven't yet shown us really their top potential just yet.
So we did get that opportunity to catch up with Mirko, talk about his journey with Complexity, but we have some teams to watch, and funny enough, Complexity actually not going to be on that list. On that list is going to be Sniper Abusers, which is a Snipe Downs team, in case you guys are not familiar. Then you got Team Squidward, the Flying Saucers, NRG, and finally, you got to have this team on your list. If you don't, you're crazy. It's TSM. These 5 teams that we're looking out for, you could probably add Complexity to that list as well. I wouldn't fault you for that at all. Any team in particular that catches your eye here? Maybe not besides TSM, because everyone's talking about TSM. Everyone always talks about TSM. Anyone else here in this top 5 that you're looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one I'm certainly looking at, if I had to pick a single one that I'm a team to truly watch, I'm keeping an eye on Sniper Abusers, just because that really surprising 18th place in online tournament 2. This is a team, once again, that is really, really capable. We've seen them with big game wins. We've seen them with amazing late game. Snipe Down BCJ specifically, have done amazing things. Now they brought Android Dream on the team. So this is it's pretty tough to say only one of these 5 as a team to watch. To be honest, as you mentioned and alluded to with Complexity, there's several teams in here that we're going to be telling the story of. And the great thing, GB, is that we have 5 games. We've got a whole evening at Apex where we're going to be able to dive into each of these teams and see what they can do.
Oh, yeah. And just so you know, if you missed out on the Europe finals, do yourself a favor. Go back and watch that VOD, because that was ridiculous. Game 4 and 5 were just treats. Honestly, treats. I feel like I was cheating my diet with just how much I got out of that. And trust me, I'm not on a diet. So especially not now. I'm pumped for this game, Bravo, because pumped for these next 5 games, because now can they do the unthinkable and win it again? Is it possible?
We keep asking the same thing. Do we sound like broken records? Yes. We've sounded like broken records now for so many events that it almost doesn't matter anymore, because, TSM, now T5M, is essentially the squad that we have to mention them in these segments, because it is to kind of downplay their streak would be a disservice to them, to competitive Apex, to competitive BR. It is amazing what they've done. It's
a disservice to esports if you don't talk about it, to be honest with you.
And we have to talk about it, because we're going to keep talking. Guess what? If they're going to keep winning, especially in the way that they do, we are going to keep talking about it. And honestly, I've talked a little bit about this. The way that TSM is winning, I talked about this going into online tournament 2, and I feel the same way now, even more in going into online tournament number 3, finals for North America.
Yeah,
they are only getting more and more decisive victories. Now, they had a rough semifinal, which we'll talk about, but I still think this team is getting better and better, which is, it's scary for the rest of the lobby and the rest of the scene, to be honest.
So TSM is the pinnacle of, at the very least, I would say the pinnacle of all competitive Apex, but most importantly in this particular region, they are the pinnacle of North American Apex, because that is the region that they're going to be competing in here today. They've done it before at a live event environment with both NA and EU teams. They've done it online, so clearly this is not just a one and done type deal. But there are going to be a few other teams as well, right? We have a few minutes until we get into the game, by the way, folks. And as soon as we do, you'll see the dropship come right in, and we'll be in there like swimwear. So let's. Obviously, if your swimwear happens to get in there, though, I'm just saying, make sure you're not doing that for the sake of everyone around your beach, and you should also be social distancing. #social distancing. Anyway, moving forward. So, anyone, I guess, there are a lot of the teams on the list that are unsigned, right? For example, the likes of Team Squidward, for example. Yep. Right. This is a team, they placed 3rd in OT2. So online tournament number 2, Team Squidward. When I first heard that name, I thought it was so silly. But I'm like, but they're so good. They are so good. A lot of great squads here, unsigned, or maybe, making their own organizations, quote unquote.
Yep.
What do you think about a lot of these teams here? Because it is still anyone's ball game. It's still a battle royale at the end of the day, Bravo.
It is, and like I mentioned in Europe, what's cool is that for these online finals, we typically have about half of the teams that are in here don't even have Wikipedia pages, sometimes more, as is the case with some of the lobbies today. So it's really, I think, once again, for North America, this is an opportunity for these teams and these players to get on the map. 2 teams that I do want to talk about as well that actually are signed are Rogue and Fnatic NA. Fnatic NA and Rogue are both 2 teams that are constantly on the bubble of just getting into finals. They just get into their semifinal, things like that. And Rogue actually was starting to change the story. Going into GLL in December in Sweden, they placed 3rd. It was a big performance from them, and I kept talking about how Rogue is the team that keeps getting top 10-ish, and they started to break that curse. And to be honest, Rogue and Fnatic NA are kind of right back where they left off. They're just on the fringe of getting to the finals,
and then being able to, and then having the opportunity. So Fnatic and Rogue are also teams to watch for different reasons. Let's see what they can do here in Online Tournament 3.
Well, I'm glad you actually mentioned Rogue because and Fnatic NA because these are obviously two teams, part of organizations. But another squad as well is NRG, right? NRG, they have made some adjustments going into this one. If I'm correct in saying they did not participate in Online Tournament number 2, and then they got it. They got it. You hear me? I can't even speak English correctly. It's late, people. All right, it's been a long day. They picked up Nathan. Right, Nathan or Nathan or whatever, however
Nathan.
Tomato. They picked up Nathan in place of Ace. How chemistry is always the most important thing, and especially in a game like this. How important do you think that change is going to be for NRG?
I like the change. Obviously, I'm also a huge Ace fan. I think everyone at this point has watched quite a bit of Ace gameplay. But I think chemistry-wise on this team, they're going to work really well. I think it allows Frex to call an IGL really clearly, and more, and Nathan will be able to set up around him. And obviously, it worked well for them in their semifinal. They came in really strong, placing first there. And to be honest, any team that wins their semifinal, certainly a favorite to take the finals here. And also in semifinal B, it was Team Squidward that actually bested TSM to get first in their semi. So right now we have, as you saw in our teams to watch, a really stacked top 4, and we are getting ready to jump into this game right now.
That's right, folks. It is now time to start game number 1 of Online Tournament 3 for North America, the Grand Finals here. 5 games to determine who will walk away with the lion's share of the prizing, and also the most important things, going to be the bragging rights. Being the best team in Apex at the moment, TSM has held that title in North America and globally for a very long time. Will they be able to do it again? We're heading right back in, as you guys all know, to World's Edge. And I'm actually, I hope that we get to see some Kings Canyon moving forward. That would make this old vet very happy if we do get to embark it back into the Canyon once again. Although I do like World's Edge. Let's see what this initial spread's going to look like. We got ourselves a east to west, west going more northern on that. A lot of activity also at Skyhook as well, Bravo. I don't know if you saw that.
Absolutely, and the Skyhook teams are going to have the latest loot opportunity just because of exactly where our path was for the ship. One thing I do want to point out that is not always the case is we do already have 2 teams in Lava City. Typically not what we see in tournament play, especially in more of a LAN lobby where there's a little bit more of an established kind of drops. But 2 teams in Lava City, to be honest, Lava City's not that big. Back in the day, NRG was the team that was dropping Lava City. Those 2 teams are going to have to make very conscious decisions of if they're going to engage whatsoever, or maybe one team goes north, one team goes south. But I'm going to be keeping an eye on that as well, Chibi.
And here we got a name that all of us are very familiar with in Apex Legends. You got No Cocoa Puffs, the man himself.
Yep.
Excited to see what the CLG
and actually, I stand corrected. That team that had gone Lava City very quickly went Dome instead, because it looks like they might have identified there. So it looks like maybe one player had started to head there, and they split off and they went Dome. So that will just be one team at Lava City and one team at Dome.
Smart course correction there. It always could end up pretty poorly for you if you take that early fight. Game 1, you just don't want to take any risky fights. And to be fair, you don't want to take risky fights, like, ever, especially in the early game. Sometimes you do want to split up on that area, right? Take control of one particular zone, not allow the other team to get any kind of presence on there, get any kind of loot if you're playing a little bit of an aggro game. Looks like as we jump over to RCO over here, this is going to be Nando. He's kind of getting beat up a little bit there. Interesting.
Yeah, one thing I do want to also talk about is we mentioned it in the pregame, but also TSM, 9th in quarterfinal number 3. They were 3 points away from not qualifying, and they did not place above 6th in that quarterfinal. Now, to be honest, based on those numbers, I'd be really curious to hear from the guys. I didn't get a chance to watch those matches, so I'm wondering if there was maybe something up in terms of software, hardware, internet. I don't know, because that is not very becoming of them. However, they had a really strong semifinal to bounce back, but TSM is a team that it's never just a walk in the park for them. They win in convincing fashion, but the way that they get there, they always have to work for it. Pretty incredible, though, to be only 3 points away from not making it past a quarter. So the question is, can they bounce back from that and get their 6th straight major tournament win?
Isn't that sometimes how it happens, though? Right? I mean, if you look back at some of the legendary squads from back in the day, right? Like maybe even get like a little Halo 3 love with Final Boss when they had their incredible first Halo 3 tournament. Then after that, just collapsed completely, if you recall, right? Sometimes that does happen to a lot of squads.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I think TSM is one of those teams that right now they might be inconsistent on their route to the finals, but obviously they've been completely consistent in any finals that we have them. It might take them a game or two to really start firing up, but by the end of the final scoreboard, you know what the story already is going to be. By the way, got to talk about our circle here, pulling very far north. We have a bunch of options. You're already seeing some pings all the way at the northern tunnel. Teams are going to be expecting that as one of our potentials. Still a lot of opportunities for it to pull a little bit further towards Skyhook, so we'll keep an eye on, see if we see any beacons coming in from any path teams.
Interesting that you mentioned how, a team like TSM could have a bit of a late start. When I recall when we were commentating the European finals, how was it Dead Inside? They had a bit of a late start. Granted, their late start started around like game 3-4, and that they weren't able to stop the rise of some of the other teams, but it was still good enough to lift them a few ranks. It's just interesting how TSM and teams like that are able to have that late start and still somehow, some way, find a way to win the whole competition through consistency toward the end. It's impressive.
Absolutely. By the way, it was not on screen just now, but we do have a beacon. This is pulling pretty darn central epicenter, survey camp, refinery, almost dead center of the circle that you're looking at. So the tunnel, northern tunnel and rain tunnel, will not be in. You're already seeing teams set up survey camp, refinery, epicenter. I would say this can still pull towards any of those 3 POIs, but all of Fragment, northern rain tunnel, Skyhook, Overlook, all out of this next beacon.
Ouch. And for any of those players that are going to be rotating in late, coming from like Thermal or Lava City, I think I saw 1 or 2 teams that were going to be over there. It will be a little difficult to wrestle for that space when so many people are shoulder to shoulder with one another. I know that I heard some shots earlier on. Just a second ago, we did cut away from it there, but it seems like it did not lead to all that much. And as a matter of fact, Rocker actually gets it down on Sweet, so that is big. The down on Sweet. I'm curious to see what's going on with that particular fight, if we can happen to get some eyes on that one. But that is a huge one. We highlighted Rogue earlier on, right as we were getting into the game, talking about what they were doing. Drop goes down as well. Seems like it's just going to be up to Huskers, the only player left, and Huskers is out. So that's it. Rogue is out.
Wow.
They're done. Round 1.
We did not get to see exactly what might have happened for them, but my oh my, a pretty unlucky series of events. There's a bunch of reasons why we might have seen that engagement happen. I'll get into those in a minute, but one thing I do want to note is you saw on the OBS POV that we've pulled up a few times that the fact that these teams are setting up and stacking survey camp. There's only 1 team in refinery. If there was any of a sort of sense across this lobby that this could pull refinery, you would have way more teams in refinery, at least 2 teams holding each side of the staircase, a little bit of rooftop action, but instead we have a little bit of a similar scenario that we saw in online tournament number 2 with this survey camp ending. It could be a pretty interesting close if it's anything similar, but every single building and trailer in survey camp is already held down.
Boy, just got your fencing up there. Get your building going, because you just got to hold this one down. But I still cannot believe that Rogue is out of it. But it also doesn't shock me who was the squad to eliminate Rogue in game number 1. Right. Team Squidward, one of the squads that we had noted to look out for. Crust, Teen, Rocker. These are great players. They played really well in OT2, coming in 3rd place, so no slouches at all. It shouldn't be surprising that they lost to Squidward. What should be surprising just overall is that Rogue is out so early on. But boy, oh boy, this kind of opens things up interestingly here, especially for Squidward getting those early points as well. And I do wonder, because I think they were over by Central Choke, I want to say. I'm curious how they're going to do as they make their way through Fragment.
That would make a lot of sense, especially if Rogue is still dropping Thermal. I haven't had the chance to watch them these past few weeks, but of course they're a team that historically has been known to drop thermal for a very long time, they would have had a pretty long route up. And GB, if you did catch some central choke, that would make a lot of sense in terms of the long route that they would have had to take. There's really two scenarios of why that battle might have taken place. One is simply that you might have had the ex-E United guys actually identify that was an opportunity for them to push Rocker, Teen, and Crust, and they somehow were able to get some early damage that made it better than a 50-50 and made it a likely push. The other thing is simply teams not establishing presence and running into each other and then being almost unfortunately forced to fight. Likely one of those two scenarios, though. What we'll have to see, maybe there's going to be a replay from the team in the back to see exactly what happened there. But we got to move on here because, of course, now 19 squads going to be fighting it out for this one as things will continue to converge. And as you just saw on screen, we do have some action still happening up in North Rain Tunnel. Any teams that are up around here are going to need to make that push towards Survey Camp.
Some shots now with the charge rifle down low here inside of the tunnels as things continue to players get a little bit more information, find out where they're going to be looking to moving forward. Here's NRG now. You got more scout in hand, identifying some players out, just letting them know that he sees them, giving them a little howdy from afar. Wonder what they're going to opt to do, though, and they really don't have to opt to do anything, to be frank, as they are looking pretty inside of the refinery, holding this thing down. They do not have to leave this at all, at least not for the foreseeable future. They're going to be able to hold this for a bit, and they're also kitted out relatively well, too. Coming in here with blue shields, right?
Absolutely. Taking a look at this poll. Situation. So we have another beacon here, GB, and this refinery is still in, and part of Survey Camp is ruled out. Now, this is really interesting once we get this beacon up on screen, just because this is not, as you can tell, thank you so much to the ops team. As you could tell, another team has already got to refinery. This is not the pull that the majority of teams were expecting. They were expecting the Survey Camp ending to pull much more west. Instead, we have something that's actually splitting the difference between these two teams. You're now going to start to see teams having to get to the eastern edge of Survey Camp and then the western part of the refinery building. So once again, it's another example of teams being a little bit surprised by that pull.
Always catches you off guard in this game, man, when you just do not expect something like that. TSM hunkered low, right to the side of the of one of the bigger buildings here in the refinery. In fact, the building of refinery. So they are just going to be chilling down low there. I think they did take a few shots earlier. Imperial Howl was going to be a little low there. Had to get meted back up to fighting position. And they'll just continue to wait this one out. Got one team that's going to be coming outside of that. I believe that was going to be a rift portal that would actually bring them back into the fight. As we take a look at the overhead map, we got 17 squads still jockeying for position and no room to work with.
Absolutely not. Things are going to be pretty slow, pretty calm for this next close, but you see when we get the next amount of information, essentially this is, based on what we've seen so far, this is likely going to pull dead center in between the two and once again split these two POIs even further into open ground, and that's when things could get pretty gnarly.
Some shots just went down. Have to be very careful about that one as they bailed out of that fight there. You got Clarify, just a little weak there. Needs to just be careful. The flying saucers, sauce roars. It just throws me off every time I look at it. Flying sauce roars, also because of sauce roars.
Absolutely.
Man, this has just been, it's just a slower paced game, Bravo, because everyone landed like around this northern side and everyone just kind of owned their territory really quickly. And it's boiling down to those people that are going to be rotating outside, like from train yard, going out of fragment, outskirt, like those are the people really that have kind of just been in the pain positions here as we have 17 squads left.
We do, and this team right here on your screen, the Flying Saucers, they're going to have quite a route because I got eyes on another path beacon, and this is pulling even further towards refinery. So every single team, which was about 9 teams that were already settled up, maybe a little bit less, maybe 6 or 7, but they were already settled up and cozied up in Survey Camp, many of them still there. They are going to have to make that eastern move. And this is really exciting. I love when teams kind of have, when you have this amount of teams that have actually made the wrong bet, because it means all those Survey Camp teams that were hoping to not have to move for a very long time are going to have to all move and figure out which team is going to be able to make that last move or take a third-party opportunity to move through. This is going to be a very tricky next rotation for all the teams that are coming west east.
And Nathan Will, and now Sniper Abuses here are going to be taking some shots. A crack there with the Arc Star. Perhaps it could be an opportunity for them to push as the Thermite is going to get placed down. BCJ is going to have to back away, maybe can turn to his teammate Android Dreamer, who is one of the newer additions to this team. They played with G-Dolphin before, if I recall.
That's right.
And they had some success with G-Dolphin. I remember I actually interviewed Snipe Down for my podcast, and I talked to him about this roster, and he just felt so confident just playing with BCJ in general. Unfortunately there, BCJ not going to be confident himself because he does get knocked down, and that is unfortunate for him. They do need to bail out of this, and it is going to be no Cocoa Puffs in team as they push forward, forcing him out of position here on the epicenter. Cocoa Puff's going to be taking shots from the side. Oh boy, that could have gotten real dicey real fast there, Brav.
Absolutely, and Noko and Team Land, they're going to once again hold this high ground. This is, in terms of epicenter, this is probably the second best choice. A lot of teams are going to try to hold, much further on that northeastern ridge, but in terms of where they are right now, they're not in a terrible place. But Snipe Down right now is going to be forced to play this solo and try to squeeze some points out of this game.
Real rough situation there. If you want to recap how the points work and how you can actually score in this one, once you get to 15th place, that's when you get yourself a point. They do have one kill, so that will grant them at the very least 1 point. Snipe Down is going to get out of there, playing the corner, very smart, just hunkering down, chilling by this rock. This rock and him are going to become good friends for the time being. He does not need to leave. This rock protects him.
It does, as does this orange traffic cone. I have got to tell you, one of the most interesting things we're seeing is because of exactly where this closed, and I'm sure the obs will pull it up when we can. Thank you so much. They are too fast. You see, Refinery got a lot more popular, first of all, as we started to see that pull. But second of all, with where this ring edge just ended, a lot of Survey Camp is still in this, and every team that is in a Survey Camp building is playing this as if it's still a Survey Camp end circle, because as I said, it's so dangerous to move out of any of these trailers or trucks and try to make the move. We do start to see it right here on screen as some teams are starting to bubble and start to make the move out, but they are playing it so slow they don't want to have to make the wrong move out of Survey Camp. So a lot of these teams are actually still in their Survey Camp buildings.
Ooh, and one of my personal favorite names for teams, Boba Boys, are going to be tucked away inside of here. And yeah, you're right, Bravo. And if they just push outside, they're going to get shot right away. People know exactly where the Boba Boys are going to be, and sharing a cup of boba tea with these people outside ain't going to help them whatsoever. Because as soon as they walk outside, they're bound to get shot. I'm a little concerned for... Oh, he's just right there. You see Hollow actually backs away for a moment.
And I mean, this is a great example of really all-inning a strategy and putting all of your eggs in a single basket. In this example, it was a lot of the teams putting it in the Survey Camp basket. Several teams, as you saw on the minimap, did get out. They did get to Refinery. They got away. But the teams that stayed, now they have to get in battles like this, which, to be honest, as a top team in the finals, these are not the battles that you want to be at this stage in the game. You want to have a much better spot. You need to be able to rotate much faster. But as I said, they made big bets on Survey Camp, and it has not paid off. And so keep in mind, teams that are at Refinery, just about every single piece of the northwestern part of Refinery, they're going to be a lot more comfortable and not have to worry about these fights.
Mentioned putting all the eggs in their basket. Very apropos for Bunny Day.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
You know, keeping it within the holiday spirit.
You know me.
So, you know, though, what the Boba Boys are doing here, Boba Boys, excuse me.
So they got out, by the way.
Yeah, they got out, and because there were players that were actually looking right. Did they get out? Because they just threw a nade right over at him. I don't know if that was a preemptive one there. Players going to be popping up behind him. Hollow, he goes down, but he is able to pop that bubble there. Chrono's going to be pushing in, and he's looking to just spread the virus here against all these other players, but he needs to be careful as he's just getting laced up, and that is going to be a clean wipe there. Oh, my word. And Land's going to be gone, too. The barrage comes through. All hell rains down, and that will be a wrap for all of those players that were getting out of Survey. Perhaps we spoke too soon for the Boba Boys. Because everything looked quiet. Everything was quiet. It was like, oh man, this is actually going to be a great rotation. And then that Arc Star landed, and then after that, everyone was dead.
It was way too quiet. That was 5 squads going down. Like we said, teams that did have to make that western move, they found themselves getting shot from so many different angles. I believe in the kill feed, I also saw Snipe Down going down, which should mean an exit for the sniper abusers. Certainly not the exit they would have hoped for in game one, but we'll keep an eye on them for the rest of the match as well. Now Flying Saucer is sitting on all blue armor with a little bit of an opportunity to play edge here. They can take their time. They've got 40 seconds to play in this push. Still, of course, there's going to be teams that are aware of them, but they do have an opportunity to reset and be very tactical in how they approach this.
Hey, Bravo, I don't know if you know, but all those teams that are in Refinery, they're feeling pretty good right now.
Hey, I'm honestly surprised that there was not, because keep in mind, the first time we got to look at the one of the first beacons, there's one team in Refinery, and I'm thinking, man, I can't believe these teams are so confident in Survey Camp, and I'm not surprised to see now that these western buildings and corners of Refinery now are tagged up with at least 4 or 5 teams. There's a lot of elevation there. As you see, this is a great example with TSM. This is a pretty desirable place in terms of being able to play this lower. It took a little while for teams to start to play that. It was right around really shortly after Poland that you saw teams play it a bit more. But these lower areas, as you also see TSM just holding, they're going to be really comfortable there, and that's going to give them a lot of different rotate opportunities out.
Yeah, what's fantastic about this position too is that if anyone tries to get a little cheeky and toss, the barrage onto them, they'll be okay. They'll be fine. They don't have to worry about it. If they throw Gibby Old on top, they got that natural cover that's going to be giving them all that kind of protection. The pressure and the situation though is when everyone's going to start to be moving in on them. Now we're going to have 10 squads remaining as more players are going to begin to drop like flies. Bravo.
Yeah, this is going to be a real thinning out of the crowds here. Flying Saucerers. Boom, a lot of ults are going to be going down. Not a lot of room to move whatsoever. Also looking at NRG as they're on the opposite side here, not too far from TSM. 8 squads still left.
Complexity is going to be right above TSM, by the way. So they see them, they know where they are, but they can't do anything about it because they have their Watson fences down. Also, Complexity put down their Watson fences, so if TSM tries to come up from the mid, that little position, a little nook where they're at, they will get caught by those fences as well. So a lot of decisions are going to have to be made here. You also have NRG that will be living down here too. There's just a lot of players that are going to be playing on this low ground here. We got 7 squads remaining, 21 players left in the lobby here, Bravo. And as you mentioned, it is going to continue to thin out more and more. Look at where that circle is landing.
Absolutely. All full squads here, as you see there. So right now we're getting a really quick look at NRG. Liquid still in it as Nocturnal. Does go down right as we saw. His name right in front of us is immediately thrown to red. Here's TSM with that pressure up top from Complexity as well.
You need to be careful. You got RCO still in this one. I saw that Fnatic NA, they're going to be knocked out. There's a few names that I saw checked off of that list there. It was just glanced by a little fast on our observer feeds here, but
one thing I gotta point out, GB, is Complexity is one of the few Gibby teams right now, which is not as valuable given how much cover is still in this next circle, but it could come when we go down to our final pin circle. We could see that definitely play a factor, not necessarily going to win the game, but that one Gibby dome, I don't think we have another Gibby in play right now, is going to really shake up exactly how that plays out, versus if there were no Gibbies left at all.
Yes, could be a big win here for Complexity, but I don't want to speak too soon. There comes Gibraltar, and by the way, what Reptar is doing here is just so clever. He's just playing inside of that drop box, just not, the crate, just hanging out. I like that. That was a smart play, right? Just hope.
Making contact with enemy.
Yeah, and keep in mind, that's a friendly barrage, once again, because they're the only Gibby team. So they're able to just play that, and, of course, that's going to be the spend on that. Maybe they get an ult excel, as we're taking a look at exactly who's left. Once again, Yeet Squad does have a player that goes down, but still 6 full squads left here. And curious, this is the time when I would love to hear TSM comms, because with 1:12 left, obviously they're watching their angles, but they're going to have a very specific plan of exactly how is going to TP here. But this is going to be an absolutely crazy end zone.
Might be something good this way. Making contact with enemy.
Yep. I'm surprised Moore is able to peak that much just now. But essentially what you're going to have here is 5 TPs and 1 Gibby Dome coming down, and is going to be absolute carnage. You actually see someone zipping in for just a second on that zip, and it's a nice little crack here coming in from Reptar as well. But now taking a look at exactly how this is going to play out. Good angles from Reptar here as well. There's going to be that TP for Reptar. Dome does go down, and he's going to go down early. He's going to be the second Dome overall, though, so I stand corrected. It's going to be 2 total Gibby squads. Now, an absolute carnage here. Several Zip, Trapeze Axe as well. As you see, NRG is one of the teams that's still in the fray as well. Nade's going down from Frex as well.
Complexity that have a player left standing, and that could very well be the end there. And yes, it is. Complexity takes it. Game number 1. Wow.
Oh my word.
Pandemonium in the final circle as players were just trying to trapeze up above, but it will be Complexity that comes out on top with the end. That's nuts.
It was nuts, and I'm hoping that we get from the OBS a stat screen, just because I do want to confirm on exactly who might have taken that one in the end, because it was nuts. And I stood corrected. We didn't see them in the Observer, but there was actually 2 Gibby teams that were left. We saw Complexity throw down
there were 2
partially
Gibby
late.
teams.
The partially late bubble. Once these stats populate from the OBS, it is going to be a Complexity win, Yeet Squad in second, TSM in third, and NRG in fourth. That's your top 4.
Wow. Complexity, well, for one, I just want to say, talk about the timing, bro. We run that Complexity piece, and then Complexity wins. We swear this isn't a part of some script or something. Okay, folks? I assure you.
By the way, shout out to the observing team. They were also following exactly the angle that Complexity had. Like we said, they threw down the second bubble, which if you're placing a bet, the team that bubbles last is probably going to be in the best position to let the action come to them, and that's exactly what they did as well. So it's so far the story of North America is certainly a Complexity tale.
You know what they say, Bravo? The team that bubbles last bubbles best. They say that.
Do they say that?
They do. They do. Have my sources. They do, in fact, say that. It is true. It's a factual statement.
I'd say
Complexity looks
good. I know that. It's a big opening for them, though, Complexity, because, as we said, 21st in online tournament number 2. They've been an ebb and flow team. They've had some performances that show promise, and then they've had performances that don't do that as much. So that's a big start for them, but they're going to need to continue that and really pick up where they left off in game number 2 through the rest of the evening if they want to come out with a finish that we're talking about coming into the next tournament.
But one of our teams to watch, our heavy hitters, TSM, finishes in third place, as well as the Yeet Squad in second. But the day will belong, at least for now, in game number 1, to Complexity. For now, we're going to send it over to the analysts to break down game number 1. Good luck breaking down the carnage in that last circle, because after a little while, it kind of just all goes kerfuffle. So you guys go ahead and take it away.
You know, Golden Boy, I love when it all goes kerfuffle. It's one of my favorite things that I get to do on a Monday night. Fallout here, back joined alongside Lulu Lovely. And yeah, that's quite a bit to break down in that end game. Yes. Thank goodness we got Lulu to break it down for you. I know what we saw the most there was NRG, Complexity, and TSM layered in that refinery approach. Break it down for me. What did we see towards that late game? What happened?
Well, we saw NRG, Complexity, and TSM. They're rotating early. They were holding down that refinery epicenter area, and then they wound up on top of each other, the 3-layer little platform outside the refinery building, and they all knew that they were going to have to move in together. And they said, whoever bubbles last bubbles the best. Bubbles, they win.
You've heard that before too, right, Lulu? You've heard that a few times.
Yes, and then we saw 2 zip lines come out, and we saw reps trying to bounce on one zip line. I'm not sure who was on the other one. But, they'll leave one player up on that zip line to have them drop late, and it's hard to stay in one spot on that zip line. So we saw reps take some storm damage, and, ultimately it came, honestly, it was hard to see who actually was getting the shots. But Complexity, they pulled through.
They did. Thank goodness for replays, so we can see that kerfuffle who got the shots in towards that late game. 5 squads remained at this point in this tiny circle, but ultimately a lot of knockdown shields, and Complexity was able to just kind of clean up that last kill and come out on top. So yes, Golden Boy said it. This is not scripted, we promise, but it seems like a recurring theme. Apex Legends continues to have the craziest stories in the online tournaments and in, whether it was Krakow or whatever tournaments we play in, the craziest stories, the craziest finishes, and ultimately we showed the Mirko piece, and Complexity did come out on top, but a good showing from TSM. You mentioned the early rotation. Walk me through what we saw there from TSM. We always talk about how fast they are, but what did they do when they rotated from Fragment East?
I mean, yeah, they are always one of the first teams to rotate out, and they have extensive map knowledge. As we see with a lot of these teams that play consistently, the reason why they can do that is because they are moving fast. And we see TSM move from Fragment and East, and they go to Epicenter where there's a beacon. They scan that, instant map knowledge, and they go from there. And they pick the perfect spot, honestly.
Yeah, I think the one thing you said that's so spot on is they're always the first and fastest team to rotate. It seems like they loot Fragment East within 2 minutes and then they're flying. It's crazy. And the interesting thing, we were talking in the Talent off-air channel here, everyone knows it. Everyone knows their playbook. We say it on broadcast each and every time. Every EU team watches this broadcast. Probably the NA teams watch it back as well, but still no one can do what TSM does as good as they do it simply. So I love that breakdown. The fact that they rotate straight to Epicenter, get top control where the beacon is, hit the second beacon, and are able to find out where the end game ring is going to be. It's not like they're able to predict every single ring. They use the beacon of their knowledge. If you talk to TSM, the reason they run Pathfinder is for beacon knowledge, not necessarily just for his movement, just for his zip line and everything else. So what a crazy finish. Again, TSM comes in the top 5 place. I don't know exactly where they did finish. Let's go ahead and take a look at the game 1 results to see how everything broke down. We do know Complexity came out on top after that. Wouldn't be able to tell you because it was insane. Of course, it's TSM in second place right behind them, but look at the performance. You have to be kidding me. Ooh. Complexity with 17 kills. That has to be a record in an online tournament final. I don't think I've ever seen a 17 kill performance. We know how aggressive Monsoon is, Lulu. What a showing.
Yes, and he had that Mastiff in the last circle, and a Mastiff, small circle, whoever has that, it's gonna work out well for them. But they're coming back with a vengeance. They didn't play in the finals of the last online tournament, so I think they're really here to take their spot back there.
That's true. And make a statement. They were pissed off that they didn't qualify the last 2 online tournaments. You're spot on. And what a showing. That kind of has to make TSM at least a little bit worried here at the 29-point first game. That's a massive, massive showing. Yeet Squad in third right after TSM. A big shot to Bauswer, former member of Fire, who also played with a substitute team and an Australian team at the Krakow preseason invitational. He gets third place. Let's go ahead and jump into the highlights to show how the action all broke down. I want to see some of the aggression, hopefully, from Complexity. We also saw some early aggression from Sniper Abusers. Lulu, talk me through what we saw Sniper Abusers do. Who did they take out early game?
Well, we saw Team Squidward and Sniper Abusers fighting in that little choke point, rotating from drill site to refinery. They were rotating kind of both pretty late there, but ultimately we saw Sniper Abusers taking out Team Squidward and then running into Team Lan on the end circle again and getting wiped.
Yeah, so an early exit for Squidward and Sniper Abusers. We know they played really, really aggressive. Of course, Snipe Down and Android Dream, I believe, both playing on controller. Known to play generally aggressive. They get taken out early. Of course, this is the late game where we saw absolute madness in that finish. Ultimately, Hal is trying to into the void, stay alive as long as he can. He knew his death was imminent as he got taken out. Complexity, all 3 members alive, I believe, right there, as Complexity ends up on top. Now we get to see it from NRG's perspective as they get taken out, and of course from the last member of Complexity, Monsoon, and Mirko's perspective.
Piled.
Yeah, look at that. 3 boxes stacked on top of another. Crazy finish to game number 1, and kerfuffle's the only word that could be used. I mean, you're right. Golden Boy said it the best. Whoever bubbles last, bubbles best. Write that down. That's going to be on Golden Boy's tombstone one day, as he's going to be known for that call. Beautiful call, Golden Boy, the one and only. As what a crazy game number 1 it was. Crazy finish to game number 1. We're just getting started here. Of course, we have 4 more games ahead. TSM second place, well behind a 29-point game, 17-kill game for Complexity. A great start, that is for sure. If you want to keep up with all things Apex, make sure to drop a follow on Twitter, on Instagram, everywhere at PlayApex to keep up with all things, not only just Apex, but competitive Apex as well. Big shout out to Lulu, who's joining us back on broadcast today. By the way, it's great to have you back. Appreciate you joining us for online tournament number 3. How's it like being back?
You know, I'm new to this, so it's different than raging in front of my webcam. You know, little bit different. I have to refrain from some things I might say on my stream, but it's fun. It's great, and it's I'm having a lot of fun watching these intense games.
You bring a ton of knowledge and insight to the stream as well, so appreciate you joining us. We missed you in online tournament number 2. It was awesome having you with your. By the way, hard to believe it was your debut just a month and a half or 2 months ago with online tournament number 1. We were in a studio in San Francisco then. Now we're of course at home. It's amazing to have you back, and again, your insights, the amount that you know about Apex is unbelievable. So really glad to have you back there. I want to talk about some of these storylines in teams. I know you were actually the ones that kind of dictated. I love the teams to watch graphic that we had early on, and a lot of the teams you mentioned. NRG with a top 5 finish, TSM right there as well. What other teams that didn't necessarily have a great game number 1 are you looking out for to step up here in game number 2? Anyone that sticks out to you?
Well, along with TSM, NRG, my top 3 non-org teams are Sniper Abusers, Team Squidward, and Flying Saucerers, each having talented players. I ran into probably all of them in ranked. Probably have died to all of them in ranked as well. But these are teams that, some of them have had a little bit of roster changes recently, but we see them showing up, we see them being consistent, and I think these free agent teams still have what it takes to maybe take home the win.
I love it. I love the fact you're giving some love to the free agent teams who are looking for a home and looking for an org. That's awesome. We'll see if Team Squidward can do it. Not the best game number 1, but we know how good they are. Different roster this time around than we've seen in the past. Of course, as the former members of United joined Team Squidward to make kind of a god squad. Very, very good, talented 3 individuals. Let's go ahead, and it looks like game number 2 is ready to go. So let's go ahead and throw it back to our casters. This time, we got the debut of Jamerson and Rain Day. Gentlemen, take it away.
All right, thank you so much, Fallout and Lulu, holding it down as usual. It's time to bring in another commentary pair, and this one new for today as well. Jamerson, how you feeling, man? Having the pleasure of casting this one with you.
Yeah, super excited. I was on hosting duty for EU. Now
you were.
I'm rearing to go for NA now.
Yeah, NA has been fantastic. I mean, we've already seen a couple of different storylines play off, but I mean, Complexity to me, starting this game in such a strong fashion, 29 points. That's one of the highest point totals we've ever seen.
Yeah, it is definitely one of the highest point totals that we've seen, and it's already at half of what Gambit had for their 58-point victory during EU. So they're already halfway there to try and secure a first-place finish here, and that's a really strong start from game number 1. Now you have 4 more games to try and get around 58, 60 points to secure that victory.
And that's the interesting, actually, aspect of it, which we'll talk about. Does that help or hurt? Sometimes it puts you like Myth, who had that strong game 1, didn't end up winning the EU tournament. And I think you can sometimes feel that false sense of complacency that you're maybe set up a little too well, and then maybe take it easy, play a little riskier, and then end up not getting points in some of those further games. But there's a lot of story points. We're going to cover it as well as we get very close to hopping into game here for game number 2 of the ALGS in North America for this online 3. But talk about that NRG, man. I mean, they have showed up in a way that we haven't seen in the recent tournaments, and they've got a roster swap as well for today.
Yeah, definitely. Bringing in Nathan there, taking the place of Ace, it's a pretty big change because Ace used to be a really big voice when it was supposed to be Frex who was the main IGL, but sometimes the comms got cluttered because of that. Now, bringing Nathan into this, Frex did play with him in the past. They had some success earlier on in GLL and such. So I think they already have a natural synergy. They decluttered the comms, and it looks like there's a much clearer vision on what they want to do in these games now.
Well, that's one of the biggest things we can see having an impact as well as the name brand team of Apex Legends, the back five. I think these guys are the back five. These guys have been so effective. TSM, as we're following along with them through the dropship, trying to find their spot, not contested whatsoever. Most of these games, Jamerson. Fallout and I keep talking about this, but I want to get your thoughts out loud. Why do you think it is that nobody contest TSM? Aside from the obvious that they're great players, why do you think no one's tried that strategy? Do you think they have tried it? Why don't we just end up seeing that in tournaments to make their early game a little bit harder and stop that fast rotate that they're so good at?
So teams did try to, even in scrims, right? We talk about how scrims are important to try and dictate where you're going to land and claiming your space. And Sniper Abusers, when they were playing with G Dolphin, did that regularly during scrims, but that isn't the case anymore. Now they're able to, TSM change their drop. They're going over to Fragment East. They get free beacons. There's 2 opportunities for beacons, right? They have it on top of the Broken Cafeteria or the Broken Diner, and also over at No Name. And this game, they didn't get it, but we saw immediately Alberlele taking the split and going over to No Name.
And very interesting as well as we cut to a fight with Snipe Down and Sniper Abusers. Good knock there, but BCJ, he's in trouble as well. Snipe Down's going to jump up. He's got to get some revenge there. He finds it. That's going to be the drop. So they will survive this Mirage Voyage. Easy respawn beacon as well. And that is going to be BCJ falling, but of course getting right back up with one of the most, I think, rewarding mechanics in Apex Legends, unless your teammates leave you, which they're definitely not going to do in a competitive match.
Yeah, the big thing here with that trade, of course, you're going to get those kill points, but trading away with your Pathfinder means that they're going to be a little bit slower. They do have a beacon to their northwest, and so their rotation gets slowed down considerably here, and they have quite the trek ahead of them, where it looks like we have a very similar circle. It's going to towards the northwest, and as you can see from THC's screen, from Fury's screen, the pings are there. They're thinking it's going to pull further north, and so that's going to slow down the Sniper Abusers considerably.
Following along with the Qualix here as well, 19 squads left. You saw the first skirmish as we continue to set up the game. It's kind of like that that delayed gratification here when you look at it. Setting up a board game to play with your family in quarantine, that may not be any gratification if you have a family like mine. But if you're setting it up, it takes time, put the pieces in play, and then you can hit go, but you do have to find that positioning, and Lurdy and No Cocoa Puffs will hang out with them for a little bit as they are also focused on that. Had a couple of skirmishes near Epicenter early on, didn't get the placements that they wanted in that last round, hoping for a different result here in Game 2.
Now, this is going to be interesting because we did get to see where the beacon pulls, where the ring pulls. It's going to pull far north to the northeast side of the map. Closer towards Survey Camp, and I believe Survey Camp is an area that Complexity drops. Complexity had a great game #1. TSM's already on the rotate over there. Now, how are they going to split this? We've seen a lot more circles going over towards Survey Camp lately, as you can see on the mini-map there. So I imagine those 2 teams, that's going to be TSM probably on the east side of Survey Camp and on the west side. But take a look, Liquid making their rotation, already getting into a fight.
And you got to give a lot of shout-outs to Liquid and all the things that they've fought through and done as a unit to keep competing at the highest level. And it's not easy. A lot of personal things come up with that as well. And just got to give a lot of respect for this Liquid squad. Found themselves in good positions and competitive in so many of these tournaments here. 19 squads still left. They make the rotation through this little choke here that's going to lead them towards Capital City and, of course, the circle with 5 seconds left. And we check in with Gabe Isman and Zenio as well.
I think that was the squad that Liquid was just behind, but you mentioned it. Liquid has battled through a lot. I believe they got 7th in the last one, but oh, here comes a knock onto Supra.
And that is Problem City right there. Corona virus just staying alive here. Just barely. Complexity, the team to watch, finding a couple downs with the scout. That means they're in a pretty decent position here to get some more points, and they do not need it. 29 at the top of the leaderboard after Game 1's win. And so it's just going to be Urice trying to find a little bit of safety. And this is one of the things Pathfinder's so good at on a team. And Jamerson, one of the things you give up, if you decide to take a Watson, Gibby, Wraith, or you try to opt away from the Pathfinder, you just don't have that player to get out and maybe come back as easily to grab banners if you get caught in a bad rotation.
Yeah, they weren't able to recover that banner, and they're right on top of a respawn either. But RCO's right behind them as they port on through, and so they have to keep on moving here. This is going to be a very difficult task for them playing as a duo at this point.
And Gabe Isman looking to find a couple headshot there as well. That's going to be the kill. It was almost overkill there, Jameson.
Hey, you gotta secure the KP. You have to secure the KP, especially with a team like Complexity gobbling up 29 points, 17 KP during the first game. You got to make every single one count.
I mean, that's nuts. We don't see teams get that high. I mean, was it the rotation? What allows a team like this, when it's usually so passive early game, to end up with 17 kills on their journey to ultimate game win?
One of the big things I think in game number 1 was that we saw that 3-team stack, right? Complexity on top, TSM in the middle, and then NRG at the bottom. The simple fact that Complexity was on top allowed them to go for a lot more poke. They had a better vantage point around them as the ring was closing to try and get any kind of KP as teams were rotating in. And I think it was that simple fact that they had the top level there that allowed them to get a lot more kill points in the end.
A couple of shots there from the scout, and you could see Lurdy, Zach, no Cocoa Puffs, just making work of one of the strongest weapons that we've seen in competitive play thus far, the G7. Their squad is named LAN. They didn't make it in the top 10, so looking to do that. Already have 1 point to their name, but still 18 squads left, so no real placement points yet, but they see white armor, so they're not really risking that this team is going to turn back and really haunt them. They're just more looking towards that backside, saying, we don't want to get pinched, we don't want to get third-partied here. And it does look like they are in a decent spot by themselves for now.
Yeah, this is a strong call coming out from Zach. Zach being the latest
or not
to the squad. But they found a really good spot where they're going to be playing edge, and they've understood where they're at, right? They're late on rotation, late on prio for the movement into center circle, so they're just going to play edge of zone. You know, you get a G7 scout into the hands of Noko, and he's going to want to try and poke away at teams and get some free kills from a distance.
Yeah, and I don't mind that play at all. I like the commitment to saying we're too late. Let's end up doing what we can do well, which is play edge of zone. We've got the weapons. We've got the shielding for it. I mean, they are equipped for a poke battle better than most teams who might find themselves on a late rotation or not quite the early drop that they were looking for. And of course, most of the teams now that we're finding in the lobby have found their way towards Epicenter, towards the top side of Survey Camp, which is where you'll see maybe 5 or 6 teams congregating right now. So it seems like they're knowing the circle is pulling north. You see the Pathfinder beacon as well, not on this screen, but it's also pulling closer and closer towards that Survey Camp area. So you're going to see more and more teams start that rotation now.
Ooh, Lurdy took a lot of damage there. He does have the Wraith Portal to get back, but you had mentioned it. That Pathfinder beacon, they're going to be able to sit on this. It doesn't look like there's any kind of contest coming out, and so they'll have that information going into this. Remember, this is just the first ring closing. There's still a lot of game to go.
Oh my God, so much game. And that's the thing, when you look at these early moments, it's almost like just character setup, right? It's like that guy you met at the cafe at the end of the day turns out to be, the guy who committed the crime. You just passed him once and you say like, wow, I saw the villain in, episode 2. That's like what ends up happening with these little skirmishes that come back to make big impact towards these final circles, whether it's a late rotation here and that player you left alive in that squad of 3 comes back and gets some just some damage on you, not even a kill, and forces you into a bad spot in a fight you thought was a simple 1v1. So a lot of dynamics to pay attention to here as you see Fury and Aqualix as well looking to fight in this tunnel.
Yeah, this can be dangerous. They have to be careful. It looks like they might be planning their exit, but it's sniper abusers. They love to go aggressive on these fights, especially when you see an Evo shield that's white. That means one person sitting on 125 HP. They are right for the picking, and they really want to try and get this kill point.
That's what it's all about as well. I mean, do you think playing aggressive, is there any time to kind of drop down and just say, you know what, who cares about rotation? Let's just try to get a kill here. Does that not really fit as a play style in competitive Apex?
I think teams understand by reading the lobby, right? Understanding how many teams are going to be center circle teams and who prioritizes that. And so playing the edge here in NA, it's kind of free. And so you're not expecting, if you're going to be taking a fight on the edge, that many third parties. So I think you can go super aggressive here if you want, but it looks like they might have pulled the brakes on that just a little bit, and they're going to try and gatekeep instead. And that's a wise choice because there is a team playing on the respawn beacon just to the south of them.
And just a bit of a correction for myself as well. That is the Happy Campers. I saw Qualix there, but I misspoke. It's just the Happy Campers, Fury, and of course, Phony representing that one, and Scissors. And so these guys, all with above 280 ALGS points, and 13 kills heading in from the semis. Looking to continue this up. You don't often see a non-Wraith team, Jamerson, and that is what they are running with the Gibby, Watson, and Pathfinder. Talk to me about that approach and that style of play as we see some G7 scout shots along the way of that rotation.
Yeah, very few teams ran that. One notable team would be Nicewig's team when they played together with Decop and Solve. They went for Wraithless team, and they ran it to some great succession. It's giving up, of course, the rotation early in to center zone, and really just allowing yourself to play edge and having actually just basic knowledge and just smart endgame knowledge. And so you're relying more, of course, upon being able to get center zone with that Pathfinder information and getting smart rotates off of just knowing where your opponents are probably going to rotate through, knowing rotation paths of other teams. There's a lot that goes into the macro of this game.
Yeah, and to me, it's like that could be a squad that plays well on the edge and kind of with rotations, like you mentioned, a lot of easy like stop and fight moments with the pylon, with the dome shield, with the bombardment for delay and stability. But it could also be a team that rotates early and holds the spot down. You know what I mean? In center circle, seems like they got on the other side of that, the former, as the ring is closing. Round 2 ending. A couple of G7 scouts like Casper. He's going to break shield as well. That is not what you want to see. Somebody staring down from high ground with a G7 scout as the ring moves in. But there it is. That's what we're talking about. That easy stop. They're still going to have to keep moving, though, because of the ring. And Phony is, oh, no, about to find out if he's real or not. He goes down. Fury is the only one alive to try and save this game. It doesn't look pretty, but 1 shot, 2 shots, and that'll do.
And it's going to be Liquid coming in to clean that up. They had a huge power position. We're poking away. They were able to read the kill feed and understand when they're able to go in for that third party. But Nocturnal taking a lot of damage there, Rain Day.
Yeah, that's a big deal as well. And Moss, he recognizes that things are getting a little testy towards the city. So he's going to try to rotate as soon as possible. The hammer points, that's the sound you do not want to hear as you're running away with both of your teammates dead. And he's using the extra speed from the Wraith portal to just try to remove that out. He's got the Into the Void. He will make it, but they're just going to take the portal as well. He better have a trick up his sleeve to get out of this one.
And Liquid did a good job of clearing out this high ground. They had been controlling it the entire time, but no, Flanker doesn't take the port, and he goes down.
And Jamerson, I don't think they were counting on that rotation in the back. Running the hammer point and the Prowler, that's an easy kill. They get the one they were looking for, and I guess you have to all-in commit, but they lose their Watson in the middle of that. Was it the right call? I mean, that's a risky play. You lose your defensive utility towards the end of the game, which you've built most of this rotation for.
Yeah, RCO Red really taking advantage of that now. As we can see here, another rotation coming out into the middle of Refinery now, into the main building.
And this is where I could say caught between a rock and a hard place, or a thermite and a generator. But having a Peacekeeper while you're in that situation at least should give a little bit of sense. You can see all the teams knocked there as well, and the team's still alive. The Happy Campers who we were following with, their team is gone. 15 squads left, so only 5 have left the game thus far, despite all the fighting that we've seen.
Yeah, the pacing of this game a little bit faster than what we're normally used to. By the closing of round number 3, it's usually about 45 players and 16, 17 squads still alive. And so the pace of this game has gone really fast, and that's just to how hard this ring has pulled to the northeast, drawing teams into very open areas. A lot of fights taking place there during those rotations. And so, yeah, down to 42 players, and it should go down even further.
And that's what you would hope to see here. But, maybe they start counting up. Maybe it's all the teams come back. Jamerson, maybe we're just trying a new mode out in Apex Legends and say no Battle Royale this time. I think Game 2 will probably work the same as Game 1, however, though. We're going to keep looking at who can survive. RCO doing a pretty decent job of that, finding some kills on the rotation, keeping people alive. I mean, for some of the fights and skirmishes that we've seen, that's a harder challenge than some would have expected. But Gabe Isman geared up for mid-range and close range here with the PK Wingman combo. Heavy extended mag, level 3, so he's going to have maximum bullets there. And that's max wiggle room to miss and still win the fight, basically.
Now on board with Complexity, and they've been posted up here. They've been posted up here since the beginning of the game, trying their best to get any kind of long-range poke-off, try to maybe get one last hit onto anyone rotating. Don't know how much success they've had so far. No kills on Mirko quite yet, but they are sitting pretty. They've got 2 blues and a purple on Monsoon. No one really around them to quite challenge them, but they do have to move a little forward. It looks like they do have some high ground to work with, as you do see the pings right there on that rocket is well within the circle, and so they have something to work with once they have to move in. But right now the concern is making sure that their back is clear, which is what Reptar is doing on top of this rock right now.
And that's what you would expect. Complexity number 1 in the lobby with 29 points. The next highest is TSM with only 11, and so they are leading the lobby by far. And one of the biggest things that most people aren't quite sure of is if that's them or not. No downs yet, so that would mean that You can't confirm whether that is complexity. Otherwise, we may see some more aggressive plays. We may see people back off knowing how well they played. No Mastiff in hand just yet as well, but Monsoon, you know him, you love him. The aim is incomparable in most situations, but this time he's just holding, chilling. No need to fight yet.
This is going to be a difficult hold for Liquid. Now, luckily for them, they do have, of course, 2 gold armors there. But still, their economy can't be looking too great because they weren't able to recover a lot of the bodies, right, when they took that fight, when they went for that 3P in Fragment. So we'll see how they can fare. They do have a nice position, but not having a Watson is going to make it difficult to stop teams from pushing them. We'll see if anyone wants to challenge them on that high ground right now on board with Rogue. And they should be right underneath Complexity. This can be a very dangerous rotation. We'll see if Complexity spots them out.
Rogue, a team that has done so well lately in so many different things and individual efforts as well. Husker's been all over the place, winning tournaments left and right. I had a chance to play with him, and right now Complexity just trying to stay alive here, taking a lot of damage, takes the portal as well. He's going to try to buy time to get the heal off, and Rogue, they're on the tails of Complexity. That's Mirko. Casper finds him. There's another team involved, and this just means more goodness for Rogue, but they get pinged as well. Big couple of shots. That might be Casper warding them off, so they don't try to push into us as well since we have zone, but Rogue is in trouble. The Watson ult is going to save him for now, James.
They have a nice pocket to work with here. They can just go ahead and heal up, but that was a great call coming out from Rogue. They hear right above them a port going off, and instantly they know they're at least getting into a 2v3, but Huskers goes down on the rotate.
And that's the Kraber as well. That's what was doing so much damage. Oh my goodness. Instant down, and Huskers gets finished by Teen. And RCO, he's going to find Hollow. And 14 squads left as things get a little bit more precarious here in game number 2. And the minute and 25 seconds on the clock signals when this gets even more precarious, as 14 squads are still left. And I just can't see them all fitting in that tiny little circle without a couple of them going down, James.
Basically, it's the same circle as we had in game number 1. It's going to be falling on over here at Refinery, basically on top of those tankers once again. But taking a look at Teen right now, got a strong position. He's trying to ward off the people to the north.
Yeah, some of the highest ALGS point totals on this squad right here. 460 for Rocker and 630 for Teen. And these guys obviously doing a fantastic job of being one of our teams to watch, and somebody that has gotten high praise from across the community of players. And so we're going to see them rotate here. Casper picks off another one with the Scout. God, that thing is doing so much damage this game. But so is a PK, but Teen goes down.
Yeah, Misha's going to be able to hit that with him as Krusty's trying to play around the bubble, but no! The wave is too strong coming out. The Flying Saucer is flying right in front of them, and that's going to be the full knock on to Team Squidward as they go down.
If you were a skeptic, you now believe in Flying Saucers. That's for sure. And Saucer just getting the Phoenix kick. Can he get it off is the question. He's not rocking the gold, I believe, and so he's just going to take his full amount of time there, and luckily they can pop the revive up without any getting pressure. Rogue drop does take Teen, so Rogue's still alive in play, even though Huskers is down and out for the count. Getting some sweet revenge on Teen, who finished them. 12 squads left as well, and now 20 seconds as the rotation gets even more intense. And Sorcerers, they're just going to play this rock for now.
Yeah, but the problem is that they don't really have a rotation quite yet. They have to get onto the other side of this rock, and there are so many teams around as RCO's Frankie goes down next. It's TSM in the exact same spot as they were in game number 1.
And if that's the case, they're sharing something very closely with Complexity, you can imagine, or at least NRG. Look at this skirmish. Oh my God, bullets raining down from on high. TSM are in a beautiful position here to take advantage of it. They don't have shielding, only rocking with blues, tier 2s, but it's enough with the charge rifle as well. And Hal going in to try to finish things off with the PK, and they're going to get a couple of eliminations there as 7 squads remain now with 1 minute and 10 before this circle moves again.
That is just a shooting gallery for every team on different levels. It's almost kind of like a golf shooting range here,
right?
Driving range, where they're just getting free shots off. We know that Liquid's playing all the way on the ultimate high ground. NRG, once again, on the ultimate low ground here. I don't know who's on the third, but good damage coming across right now as Moore is able to get the finish onto Logically. Now we're down to 6 teams here.
And still, I believe that the Kraber is in play. We keep seeing Nocturnal use it, and he found another drop kill there onto Dropped as well. And look at that, it's Moore. He's in trouble, and they didn't realize TSM was just peeking, waiting for that to happen. I'm not sure how they didn't understand TSM was above them, or maybe he just wanted to risk it for an armor swap, didn't feel he could make it. or was running out of cells. We don't know why, but we know he's down. 5 squads remaining, 2 squads for Hal. And the main entry fragger for the TSM boys, he's just going to search this up, see if he can find, I'm sure, any extra ordinances. If he doesn't have any, maybe any extra shield bats. And of course, they're now leveled up to level 3s.
I think what happened there for Moore was that he was trying to change off from the triple take, which was what he was using, try to find any other weapon there, because in this circle, as we get to the later rings, you do not want to have a long-range weapon. You want to have a Peacekeeper. You want to have an EVA 8 or an R99. Try to go for the swap, but he got punished for it. He should have known better, but now it's Liquid set up here on the high ground. They've got the zip line ready to go for this final circle.
And they can stay up here. They're just going to bunny hop. You could do this if you haven't seen it in Apex Legends. You're seeing it now. These guys are going to stay up here until somebody tells them the ride is closed. And so far, it looks like it's Saucerer. He breaks the gold shield. Now he's got to fall if he wants to heal that up. This could be bad. They made a play, Jamerson. I don't know if it's going to work out. The drop and then the kill onto the zipliners.
Is this it? I think this is it. They've got the knockout to everyone. There's just gold knockdown shields for everybody here, right?
Are you serious? Are you serious? After all of that, you can see Flying Saucers. It looks like Clarify and the squad entangled in that final one, knocked off. And oh my goodness, Saucerers look like they get the victory at last. They do God's work and get those dudes off the zip line and bring them down to their knees. Beautiful game 2 finish, and an excellent showcase of the ability of what Pathfinder can do in those final circles and what he can't do when things get a little rough and eyes turn up towards you.
This was very similar to what we saw in game number 1 of EU, right? We did a little piece about this, which you guys will be able to see at home in a few days. But again, the Flying Saucers, they were the only ones in the north side of the map there. And so they had the prio on the circle. They were able to push in with that Gibraltar bubble. And every other team was basically rotating in from that southwest side. And so they all ran into each other and the fight was happening out there. While the Flying Saucers, they were now part of the shooting gallery. They're the ones that were just shooting down everyone as they were moving forward.
And if you think it's easy to hit a jumping Pathfinder mid-air with an R99 from that distance while other teams are around, it's not, but somehow they managed to do it. And I think that was really the turning point. They got so much damage to where you couldn't drop and get off anything. Remember, they both had gold shields, so you have plenty of time if you actually need to fall down and get a battery off, as long as you're not exposed or about to die before you can do it. And unfortunately, the Gambit didn't work out for their favor, Jamerson, but an incredible final circle that we saw there. And hats off to Flying Saucerers for managing it.
I also want to say, hats off to Team Liquid there, right? They had a great 3P over at Fragment East, but they ended up losing their Watson. They had to make the rotate in as just a Watson, as a Wraith and a Pathfinder. They got a position on top of those gas tankers, and they were putting in work with their long-range weapons.
And you're seeing that more and more again. Snipers seeming to play a relatively big impact here. And of course, the traditional R99s, Wingmans, and PKs. But that's game 2. Flying Saucerers take the victory. Let's send it back to Fallout and Lulu for some analysis on that and to get us into the next action.
Rain Day, Jamerson, thank you so much, and brilliant commentary and post-game analysis as always. You hit the nail on the head. Great positioning comes through for Flying Saucers as we see them come out on top with a well-placed Jibby Bubble. Joined back here with Lulu, lovely Lulu. In that late game, we saw a few things. Break down what we saw in that towards the end of the game as the action broke down.
Well, we're seeing almost, same thing that happened in the EU portion. 2 games back-to-back, similar circles, but this one, instead of going between that little platform and the refinery building, we see it move to the top, left, or let's see, left side of that platform. And we see teams like TSM and Energy being in the same exact spot, just showing that they do have just that map knowledge. They rotate early, and then we saw some teams learning from last game. For example, Team Squidward, they rotated a little bit early. And I think because this was a similar circle to the first game, we saw more teams left alive closing in. And just it open circle in that last part. We saw people trying to bounce again on zip lines. And those knockdown shields are insane. You're just kind of laying there waiting for the game to finish, and that can win you placement points. Just having that gold knockdown shield, getting forgotten, while they're fighting.
Yeah, that's spot on. You're almost waiting for your inevitable death, but trying to survive as long as you possibly can, because the difference between a placement right there is the difference between 2 or 3 points. So that is absolutely massive, and a crazy finish to that end game. Team Liquid and a well-placed zipline, and honestly the ability to stay hidden for quite some time alone earned them a second place finish. They didn't get spotted out until towards that very, very late game, until finally they got spotted out by Flying Saucers, and again, great R99 shots hit, but ultimately Flying Saucers played that near perfect. The way they played their positioning towards late game, perfectly placed Jibby Bubble. End game or late, again, is what allowed them to come out on top. They had the best position in the game, the best Jibby Bubble or Dome in the game, and they're able to win almost any fight for people rotating. It helped that Team Liquid put some shots on people low side as they were rotating in towards that last ring as well, as people were kind of damaged. That set Flying Saucers up for success, but in the end, it was Flying Saucers and Team Liquid in first and second place, I believe. Let's go ahead and take a look at the final moment, though, to see exactly how the action broke down once again. As we saw here, Flying Saucers in a very, very good spot to close this one out.
They really did have a great bubble, and I feel like, everyone was kind of busy fighting each other there, and they were kind of just able to pick the pieces up.
Yeah, exactly. Clean up crew on aisle 5 here as they were able to come out right on top. Good shots put in as well, and ultimately it was Flying Saucers that did come out with the win. But you called out a couple really good points about Game 2. One, you mentioned the similar ring to Game number 1, and ultimately NRG and TSM rotated to the same exact spot, stacked on top of each other. So they kind of claimed their respective homes 2 times in a row now. So they're no longer renting; they currently own that location. It's official. A few other things. You mentioned the early rotation coming in from Team Squidward. So rather than fighting early on, and rather than getting taken out by sniper abusers like we saw in Game 1, Team Squidward did rotate early, but ultimately I believe they caught their demise to Flying Saucers. Was that right?
I believe so. But again, Flying Saucers and Team Squidward, both teams that we've been keeping our eye on, and I'm super excited seeing Flying Saucers win this.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great showing from Flying Saucers, a team that showed up in a great way in online tournament number 2. And here we go in online tournament number 3 with a different roster this time. They show up again, and they're looking this time to hopefully change their tide as they had a good performance in their semifinal of online tournament 2, a solid showing in the grand final of online tournament 2, and of course a great showing in game number 2 as they come out on top with a first place finish. Another thing we saw, another team that we keep talking about as a team to watch, is Sniper Abusers. Again, a similar thing to what we saw just 2 weeks ago in the last online tournament. A lot of early game aggression that is helping them pick up a couple of kills and eliminations, but is not necessarily helping them come out on top. So in your eyes, Lulu, what's the better way to play? Do you like to play for placement or like TSM, NRG with early rotations, or do you think the early game aggression and playing for a few more kills is the better decision here?
Honestly, you need to find a perfect balance of taking fights when you can, but I think playing for placement ultimately will be better. And, teams, they'll learn to pick off people rotating in, because if you're able to get that position early, you have that advantage. I think that's another reason why we're seeing more charge rifles, and, they're holding their positions and they're picking people off. So really it's that perfect balance. So I would definitely say, position over early on aggression there.
Over early aggression. I love that you say a solid balance, because now for the second time we see the team drop 14 kills. Game 1, we saw 17 kills and 29 total points from Complexity. Game 2, Flying Saucers finds that great balance of playing with aggression and playing for kills, but also being one of the best position teams towards that late game, and it rewards them with a massive, massive game. So that's going to put TSM in the low 20s mark. We don't see Complexity on the board here in Game 2. Let's go ahead and take a look at the overall standings, as it looks like Flying Saucers is going to trump Complexity by 1 point only. You're spot on there. So a close 1-2 battle between Flying Saucers and Complexity, but TSM does what TSM does best with some solid consistency, as they are in third place with 23 points, pretty well positioned here as well. Anything else stick out to you here, Louis?
Like I said, during the EU broadcast, the tourneys where there's a different winner every single time, it makes for, these closer games, these closer points, and I still think, it's anyone's game. And like we've seen previously, TSM, they're in gamers. Like, you see them show up in, game 4, game 5. So I think we'll still see some great action from them too.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, ice in their veins. I've said it a few times. They have all of the right DNA to be another great dynasty or legacy type team. They currently are one of, if not the most dominant teams in major esports titles. And with 5 straight tournament wins, you always see them show up when it matters the most. Very similar to many other dynasties that we've seen in the past of traditional sports and elsewhere. So again, TSM always plays consistent early on. That puts them in a good spot. Always shows up games 3, 4, and 5. However, will we see a different story this time around? It's almost like deja vu, Lulu, because we say this every single time. Will it be a different story? And every single time TSM comes out on top with another victory, as they've been absolutely dominating since the beginning of Apex. And you've had a chance to play quite a bit with them. We know what makes them great with their early rotations, etc. But as personalities, give us some insight into you've had a chance to play quite a bit with TSM. What are they like as individuals? What makes them so great as individual players?
I mean, I think one of the great things is they're all very strong players. They're individually extremely skilled, and they have a little bit of a different, I guess, team dynamic. A lot of people think that they yell at each other a lot and are mean to each other, but really they're saying what they need to say. And we've seen teams fall apart by getting mad and staying silent, not hashing it out. So I think, TSM, they'll hash it out. And I think that's kind of like what sets them apart is, they're strong individually, they're strong as a team. They'll hash out their problems, go to the next game, and show up.
And I love that you bring that up because there's so many books on great leadership, great teams. There's a book called Dream Teams by Shane Snow that talks about tension as very, very healthy. It's really good to have a certain level of tension. If you let it get to an extreme where the rubber band breaks, so to speak, and the team gets completely demolished or someone takes it too far or calls you out in something personal, that's too far. But until that breaking point, that tension is a great thing. And the best teams in history have done that. You look at, Michael Jordan in the 90s was always very, very hard in his team. I read a tweet the other day that he never talked to Dennis Rodman about anything except for basketball. There was never any small talk. It was always, let's stay focused on the game. And, as crazy as it is to compare TSM to Michael Jordan or reps to Michael Jordan or the 90s, the Bulls in the 90s, they do have a lot of the similar makeup. And I love that you bring up that point. The fact that they are willing to have that healthy tension while all striving for greatness and excellence, I think says a lot about this roster. So there's a lot to say about TSM, but a few other teams that have shown up very strong here. Complexity currently sitting in 2nd place, NRG in 5th place. So the return of those top 2 orgs where we honestly think they belong. What's been the difference here for Complexity and NRG in your eyes?
Well, I mean, I think Complexity, they worked out some kinks and they're here to, for, revenge, and they're here to show up and they're here to take their spot back. And they're all 3 strong players. We've seen Mon pop off with his previous team, and now he's popping off here. So I think that we'll still see good things from them. And with NRG, we had a change, and now Nathan is playing in place of Ace. So I think that is an interesting switch up. It seems that they're making it to the end game. So it's working.
I think Nathan was a former member of Team Squidward, if I remember correctly, in Online Tournament number 2.
I believe with Lou and Rocker.
With Lou and Rocker, yeah, I think that was there you go, drop some knowledge. I think that was the squad that Team Squidward performed incredibly well with the top 3 or top 4 finish in Online Tournament number 1. Sorry, so we know what Nathan Bloom can do. I think he's a great addition to his NRG squad. Sad to see Ace not competing on this roster. Obviously, a lot of love for Ace as an individual, as a streamer, and as a great talented player. But of course, great to see a new kind of improved NRG roster so far, at least in terms of placement. We'll see if they can come out on top. As I know, Ace is watching and repping his boys in NRG and hoping for the best with them. We just saw the highlights right there, and ultimately the Flying Saucers did come out on top with a massive win in game number 2 and a great performance at that. I love the breakdown on NRG and Complexity. Everyone is used to watching Monsoon, who, by the way, is probably the most entertaining human being in any esport.
And talented.
Talented.
Have you seen him bust out the ukulele and sing on stream? Like, he can do anything.
And it all started for him with that Kraber shot on, was it Summit or whoever it was?
Shroud, right?
Was it Shroud? I think it was Shroud. You're right.
Yeah.
I think it was Shroud. Absolutely crazy. Big shot to Monsoon. Talented, entertaining, and a ridiculously good Apex player. You can learn so much from watching his streams, so make sure to drop Monsoon GG a follow on Twitter, as we're excited to see what Complexity can do. Of course, Reptar, Mirko, and Monsoon, and currently in 2nd place. Let's go ahead and continue talking through any teams that in your eyes that you expect to do a little bit better. We haven't seen a lot of sniper abusers. RCO White currently doing well, and I think a top 5, top 6 spot. Anything in your eyes, any teams in your eyes that you expect to step up here in game 3?
You know, Sniper Abusers, they have what it takes. They also, another team, free agent team, they have great individual players. And yeah, we are seeing the RCO team. They're making it to the top situation. So I think, you know, they have what it takes to take home that first place there. So I'm hoping, you know, to see them step up. But, you know, I'm just so happy to see so many free agent teams they're doing well. They're doing so good.
That's a great call out. Of course, any orgs watching, looking to pick up an Apex team, we got some amazing free agent talent. A lot of teams made up of 3 just stellar players that have come together and performed incredibly well, as it looks like game number 3 is ready. Will we see a free agent team step up here in game 3? Will we see Sniper Abusers go huge? They need to at this point. Well, let's go ahead and throw it over to some casters that know Snipe Down and Sniper Abusers very well. It's Bravo and Golden Boy. Take it away, gentlemen.
All right, sounds like, not sure if we have Golden Boy with us right now, but Bravo and Golden Boy back in the booth here for game number 3. Cannot wait to jump in. If you're just joining us, welcome to game number 3 of 5 for the North American portion of the Apex Legends Global Series Online. Excited to bring you the 3rd game here, and as you see, a ship that's coming in from that northeast all the way down towards the southwest, and some early action actually taking place here as well. But if you're just joining us once again, Flying Saucers right now with a 1-point lead over Complexity. They've got 32 points, but those 2 teams have quite a lead over Team Solo Mid, who is, of course, our favorites. They are the 5-time, and they are only with 23 points. Liquid Blue biting at their heels with 22. That is your top 4. NRG not too far off in 5th place. So now excited to see exactly what game number 3 holds. Of course, a little bit of a pivotal game in the series, and it will really determine who has their backs against the walls for the final set here. Now, waiting for Golden Boy to jump back into this with me. So thank you for your patience here as we wait for GB to connect really quickly once again. But now, talking about what we've seen so far off these games, to be honest, in both Europe and North America, interestingly, we've had very, you know, up in our caster chat, we've been talking about just how, for some reason, games 1 and 2 tend to pull towards a very similar end circle. But now, as we're finally seeing, you just saw it on the OBS, we do see a pull instead for the circle that is going straight due south, pretty darn south central once again. As we look at the RCO guys, they're coming through Geyser Vault towards the capital city eastern outskirts, and we'll see exactly what they're going to be able to do. Here, we do have some notable omissions as well from this North American bracket as well. We've talked about some of the teams that we expected to be here. That was the same thing in Europe as well, and that's bound to be the case when you do have online tournaments as well. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I do have Golden Boy here with me, just quickly reconnecting in Discord. I promise you won't have to hear only me talk for the whole game. That is one thing I can absolutely promise you here. As well, now go ahead and take a look at TSM. Of course, they've already made their way out of Fragment. To be honest, they're doing pretty well, sitting on a purple and a blue. And as we talked about a lot with TSM, and also once again, great point that Hodsick makes is that TSM is not afraid to rotate early. As take a look at the clock, already 110, and they are this far across. So they rotated out of Fragment even faster just because they know they do have that fast southern route that they need to take, and they're not afraid to get there. Another great example of a southern route from TSM is going to be on that Lava City run that they made in online tournament number 2, right? They're a team that not only do they rotate early, but as a result, they can play on white armor as well. I believe I might have Fallout joining me in just a moment as well. Fallout, I got you here.
You do. Yes, sir. You know, Bravo, I've seen you do some crazy things in casting, but casting an entire Apex match by yourself is quite difficult to do. So I got your back, brother.
Yeah,
Looks like we're getting ready.
I'm mostly, just for our viewers, don't want to subject them to listen to me for the entirety of the game.
Same voice the entire time. That might be a little bit brutal. At least,
and not just
same
voice,
but
face,
my
though,
voice.
No, it's true.
Your voice
actually. Yeah, my voice. But no, thank goodness my face isn't on screen. We all know we're casters for a reason. We mostly hide behind the gameplay. But I'm stoked to have you joining me here for game number 3.
Yeah, face made for radio. You and I both, brother. I feel you. I feel you on that one. Yeah, of course. Glad to be casting with you. I think one of our first casts together, so I'm stoked, man. It's gonna be an awesome cast here in game number 3, as it looks like we're currently on board with Energy early on. And Bravo, you've had a chance to watch obviously game number 2. You casted game number 1, and you've seen 2 similar things. Energy and TSM both rotating very, very early. What do you think for this Energy roster now in your eyes as we're a little in action that maybe we didn't see in previous online tournaments and previous competitions? You've casted almost every single major Apex broadcast, so it'd be good to get your perspective.
Yeah, one thing also, I happened to watch a lot of Energy tournament play as well prior to online tournament number 1. I watched a lot of them dropping Lava City and figuring out what they were going to do out of that rotation. To be honest, I think we're just seeing NRG with just even tighter shot calls and even more coordination. I think when we're specifically looking at their oldest roster with both Dizzy and Ace, with a little bit of engagement here though for Complexity, by the way. As we mentioned, your team is in 2nd place right now, so they're going to need to be careful here and fight through. Reptar's the first one to go down. Mirko goes down as well though, and now Monsoon is in trouble, and this really should be it unless he can somehow queue out and allow the third party to give him a get-out-of-jail-free card. And for the moment, he is trying desperately to get away, but this is going to be tricky. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do this.
Some way, somehow survives. Can he, with a shred of health here? Yes, he does. Somehow makes it out of that scenario. He was actually stunned, Brav, during his Into the Void and his Q. So he didn't get any much of a movement boost in his Q. Was able to finally get the movement boost of his ult and get out of there safe. And now Monsoon is going to be left to carry his entire team here as he'll try to rat his way to a successful finish here, a top finish here. So another iffy round for Complexity as they got caught in a mid-game or mid-round fight. They probably didn't want to as they were trying to rotate towards the choke point. Those choke points, though, on World's Edge, they definitely get you.
This is tough for Monsoon because this is not, for example, him coming into a game 5 with a comfortable lead where he can try to solo this. This is a game 3, right? We are mid-series, and now he's playing solo here with his, he's only down by 1 point. A lot of pressure on him to make something out of this game 3. There's not a lot of math you could do where he knows if he places top 5, he's pretty much sitting pretty. Instead, he's going to have to really try to make a pretty valiant solo run here. Long game for him, but also taking a look at the NRG guys once again.
Yeah, you're spot on, because in Game 2, we didn't really see a whole lot of Complexity. I don't think they placed top 10, and I don't know if they got any kills either in Game 2. So 2 games in a row.
Complexity in Game 2 was 15th place with only 1 kill.
Oh, yeah, that'll. I think that's, 2 points, if even that? 1 or 2 points? Max, so you're spot on there. They need a big Game 3 here. They need a little bit of consistency, and all up to Monsoon right now. We all know how good of an individual player he is. We've talked a lot about him in the pregame show and during some analysis, but it's obviously a tough task to be the last member alive and try to just rat your way to a successful finish, especially in his current position, as this ring will certainly, or most likely, continue to pull to the bottom left here, and he's currently at the top right of this ring.
Actually, we're going dead center as well. We just did see a beacon in OBS,
and
it is pulling essentially dead center. So we're going to have a lot of dome in there. We're going to have olive tree. We're going to have south sorting still in. So any team that has not held up there yet, there's quite a number of them that are still either at Lava City, still at Harvester, or even one team at Thermal. Still quite a few teams. It looks like a lot of teams betting on tree. Essentially, every piece of tree has already been taken. And as a result, as you might expect, the southwest corner of sorting is also pretty popular right now. Taking a look, actually, right now, speaking of the devil.
Indeed, currently watching Yeet Squad, currently on top of Sorting Factory. They're just going to regain control here. And they already have the insights from the beacon of the next ring. So as Bravo did mention, we'll be going everywhere essentially but Harvesters towards Tree, Dome, and Sorting Factory. So Monsoon over at Harvesters is going to have to hit a rotation. Looks like Rogue's in a pretty rough spot here. Another team that we've seen do some big things. We saw them make some noise in GLL. You mentioned it earlier in kind of our off-air discussion. We haven't seen them really pop off in an online tournament just yet. Not the best start for Rogue. What is it for this Rogue squad in your eyes, Bravo, that is not necessarily working so well here in these online tournaments?
I think the tough thing about Rogue is right now they're back to the inconsistency that I had hoped they were over. When I talked about them at GLL, keep in mind GLL in Sweden, that was an online tournament where they placed 3rd, and they looked really good. And I was thinking that the ALGS run for them will look different. To be honest, they've gotten back to a little bit less consistency, which is unfortunate for that side. And they're also now sitting pretty low, 15th in the table, only 1 kill so far, 20th in game number 1, 6th in game number 2. And they're really going to look to squeeze out something respectable here. We'll see if they can do it. Right now, in terms of armor, they're doing okay, and we'll see what they might be able to do as they're going to make their way in west towards this ring.
Low equipment rotation, insight there. as we're currently on board. And it looks like, wait, what are we seeing here? Monsoon was able to actually res his 2 teammates. So Monsoon sneaks his way back probably through his portal before and res his teammates. Am I seeing this correctly here, Bravo? I think I'm seeing the
we are gonna have to ask the OBS team and replay team to see if they can find out what on earth has happened with Complexity. Of course, Miracle and Reptar, they're going to be on white, but they're going to be happy to be in this game. And right now, they're at Thermal, and if I take a look, there's a team actually right by them in the Thermal choke past Thermal Ridge. So they're going to want to avoid this fight as much as possible. I'm going to keep a really close eye on that choke because Thermal choke could get really nasty for them right now, especially with 2 of them on white armor.
Unbelievable. So the fact that they're still alive in this one means Complexity still has a life. Someone else who still has a life and is back in this broadcast is the man Golden Boy himself. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it back to Golden Boy to let the OG Halo duo call it for you guys. Golden Boy, take it away, my friend.
Thank you so much, Fallout, and apologies for that one there, friends. As you know, the trials and tribulations of an online broadcast would always creep up at you at the very last moment, but luckily my internet connection here in New York held strong. So I'm back in the action, folks, and let's just go ahead and break down what we've seen so far, Bravo. And we got Rogue still going to be in this one. Thankfully for them, they've kind of had a few rough games recently, and hoping to see them kind of bounce back in the mid-game here as we're in Game 3.
First of all, dude, it's good to have you back. I was worried about you.
It's good to be back, bro. It's good to be back,
I
man.
was, not going to lie, I was worried about you.
Dude, I was a little formal there for a moment. I'm sorry, dog.
Yeah, I'm just like, dude, I'm glad you're alive.
Dude, it was crazy stuff, man. It was crazy stuff. But here we are. We hold it down. We hold it down for the Apex community. You know what I'm saying, baby? That's it.
Absolutely. Speaking of, Rebel Esports actually picking up some big kills there on Flying Saucers, which is not what you expect to see, especially Rebel Esports, our 19th place team right now, with a really good battle there against the Flying Saucers, who are our #1 team by 1 point. So
you're just telling me that the #1 team just got knocked out?
They did.
That is rough.
They're our first to exit, and now also...
that is rough.
I'm not sure. You might have been troubleshooting, GB, to get back into the voice server, but let me tell you, Complexity Monsoon essentially able to hit a Q into a TP to somehow stay alive into a bat and get both of his teammates back in this game, and they will now live to fight through it. We thought it was maybe going to have to be a Monsoon crazy solo run. Instead, he's got his whole team back in the game.
Those are the kind of friends that you want in your games, people. You want your friends that are going to be able to bring you back in and keep you going in this game, because you ain't done until the fat lady sings. And
you also want, it's true, you also want friends that aren't afraid to punch you through
That's
doorways
true, too. I was going to mention
that.
Yeah, you know, just go in there and wallop them a few times. You know?
Punch them through.
Get them back in the door quickly. You're tired of your crawling. Just hurry up. Respect that, though.
Be quicker.
Be quicker, be better. Land is still in this one, folks. And what are we looking for the pull here? Because this is looking quite interesting, Bravo.
Oh boy. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get that up on the screen to show you exactly where this is going. But everyone who is at Tree needs to head east. Everyone who's at Sorting is screwed, and people who are still at Dome are still going to need to move even further. This is almost certainly going to be essentially in the Dome choke, underneath the big rock arch. You've all seen this end circle before. These teams will have played it before. It is a pretty technical and specific one, which we're going to dive into if it does pull that way. But we're pretty sure that it's going to be right on that, because if it's not, it's going to be even more cliff and less flat ground where this pulls. But I think we're going to see this pull pretty close to that choke, and you're going to see whichever teams can hold down the choke that goes into Dome from South Sorting.
Yikes. That is going to be interesting. But, all right, folks, well, here we go. As it continues to boil down, you're going to have 19 squads remaining, so still plenty of teams left in this one to try and fight it out. Currently, though, we are going to have Bowser along with Tempest and Mollis, who you guys, have seen before in the past. The Yeet squad, they got yeeted out of Game 2, though, early on, by the way, finishing in 16th place. This time around, looking to stay in this one, and oh man, Complexity. They're right back in a really rough position here. Not a spot you want to find yourself going into this.
This has been a rough game for Complexity. Now Mirko's the one who's going to have to try to Hail Mary after losing Reptar and Monsoon. So, of course, they had an uphill battle on double white armor, but now it's going to be all up to Mirko. Still 18 squads left, and honestly, it's the same situation that we talked about in the early game with Monsoon. They're going to try to make something out of this Game 3. Now we're taking a look once again at Rogue.
You want the definition of the struggle. Look no further than Game 3 for Complexity. Because losing out your teammates, bringing them back in, losing them again is just heartbreaker for this
Honestly,
squad.
it looks too similar. It looks too similar to one of my games.
Spraying in your buddy, taking them out. You know, I get it. I get it. It's rough goings out there, man, in World's Edge and out Kings Canyon for a lot of people in rank. Now, Rebel's actually going to be pushing around the left side over here, and Six is going to get tagged up quite a bit. Nighthawk's also going to be down as well to very low amounts of HP there. His shields are going to whittle down. You'll have that Watson generator to try and bring back some shields, but it won't do so quickly. Moport, though, pushes him back, and they are able to take out RCO. That fight looked like it could have gone real poor, real quickly for Rebel, but they will continue to fight on in this game.
Yeah, really nice stuff from Rebel to stay alive. They're obviously using the slow heal quite a bit. It actually made quite a difference, but the biggest thing was those 2 PK breaks that came in at a perfect time. Really great Peacekeeper shots that able to essentially allow the team to mop up those kills on RCO. Great stuff from Rebel. Now 17 spawns left.
If you'll allow me to geek out for a moment, if there's one thing I like, it's the sound of shields breaking when you hit a glorious Peacekeeper on it. It's just the best thing. It feels so good. Now, what isn't feeling good is the boosted bandits. They're going to be in a rough spot too. Above as well. They were getting shot from all different angles, and it seems like Mercy did get cleaned up, so that is going to be the end for the boosted bandits. We're now down to 15 teams.
And GB, it is exactly what we expected with this next circle pull. It is essentially dead on, maybe you could say a little bit further southeast, but is dead on that choke into Dome. And this is exactly, every team in this lobby will have played this many, many times. There's not going to be a ton of surprises here. The key that you want to point out is that essentially 1 to 2 teams is going to have the middle of the choke, as we see a little bit more cleanup here on NRG. 1 to 2 teams are going to have the center of the choke. You're actually seeing Rogue here on your screen as they're going to have to be making moves out of Dome and further closer to the choke itself. But essentially, there's going to be 1 to 2 teams that have the choke itself. They might have some height there. And then the rest of the teams are going to be pushing in from the north and the south. Rogue, an example of a south team that is now pushing in towards that choke.
They're going to have to start moving relatively soon, and looking now at the squads are going to be left in this one. The bubble, the safety of the bubble has disappeared, but they have gotten out of there. They're actually keeping eyes on that too. You got about 20 seconds now, for maybe some people who are joining us for the first time, don't know the mechanics of how Battle Royale works. It's a very easy one, and I'm sure your friends would explain this to you in your games as well. When you are over toward that slimmer part of the circle needs to collapse on one another, on all edges of the safe zone at the same time. So when you're at that smaller part, right, of the circle, you can actually hang out there, maybe not in this particular instance, but you can hang out there and wait it out a little bit, because it's not going to be moving nearly as fast as anyone that's going to be further out on the wider part of the circle.
And this is so interesting. I'm so glad we got to see the map for just a second there from the observers, because this is not actually how this typically plays out, where at this stage, teams are now fighting just now for this choke. You saw Rogue was over there. You now see Land is over here as well. And actually, a high number of teams are still on the north side of this circle, and they're still only making their way in towards from sorting and tree area, which is really interesting. Q here, though, from Team.
Oh, yeah, and Team trying to get in there, but that is Squidward out of here. Unfortunately for them, that will be Land now as we jump over to their perspective. I don't know who was the one that got the final kill on that player.
I think it was Fnatic that in the feed.
Was it Fnatic? Well, then in the end, Fnatic ended up getting cleaned up by Liquid there. So that fight was going south real fast. And over on the ledge here, the circle is going to be closing in a minute, so they have a little bit of time to work with. It's going to be Land. You got Noko along with Zach and Urti as well, or Lurti.
And like I said, this is none of the teams really wanted to get into the choke if they could have avoided it. A lot of the teams that we just saw drop was simply a result of teams avoiding traveling south into the Dome choke, and then instead deciding to have a lot of those battles outside. That's why we dropped just now to 5 squads left. Rogue still in a pretty good spot. You saw them making their way up towards the west just here along this cliff, and now they're in a really good spot to play late game here.
It's ridiculous, though. Looking at the teams that are going to be left standing, you're going to have Rogue, you're going to have Land as well. You have RCO and TSM. TSM is still very much in this battle. but they do have one player, I think it's going to be Reps, that has just white armor, so kind of awkward for him to have to deal with that with the white armor, but he should be able to switch out if he does manage to do so, and they can clean up some of the players that will be dragged down here as the circle begins to collapse. 5 teams remaining, Bravo. We're getting down to the final moments.
So TSM actually making a very late push. They're like some of the furthest out right now, and finally they're going to be engaging off screen, so we're going to keep an eye on their POVs as well through this here.
I know, man, I'm kind of liking what Liquid's got going on here. They have that gold devotion, that weapon. We saw it in the EU finals, how good it could be in the hands of the right person. And all of these players at this point in time are basically the right person with the skill that they bring to the table. Liquid's going to be able to clear out one of the squads there. And that is a TSM's member goes down. Reps, he's going to be out of this one. Aberleli is done too. The only player left alive for TSM is going to be Imperial Hal. He manages to stay alive long enough to remain in the top 3 and net himself and his team 7 points. Finally, he's going to get cleaned up though. It is now going to boil down to Liquid alongside Rogue. A classic battle between 2 very well-known esports organizations. Let's see how this one unfolds, though, as Team Liquid is going to have a few players that will be down. Rogue will have that life lead as far as players are concerned. They have bodies, they have angles. They're looking at where these players are going to be positioned. Liquid trying to just work around this crate and see if they could play the natural cover. It's going to be up to Casper, though, the last player left alive for Liquid, and Rogue, they are chomping at the bit. They know that they are ready to end this one. This is basically their game to lose, and Rogue manages to, I mean, just the sheer ridiculousness of that final there. Very well done to play around the coverage, and man, good stuff.
Good stuff from Rogue, as you said.
Very well done.
Yeah, very well done indeed. The way they played that, it's also, I mean, we are getting really lucky, I'm not going to lie, between the POVs that the observers happen to be following and the teams that we're talking about pregame. The fact that we talked about Rogue so much and how they have a lot to prove in these final 3 games, and they come out with a big win there. They did some key things to win that game, but the one thing I'll focus on, I'll let the analysts take the rest, is that you saw that they were playing the bottom left pocket of Dome, really close to the choke. That's exactly where everything pulled. As we said, right before the top 5 battle started, they were sitting in a really good spot for late game, and they made that count in the end. Another thing we didn't see off screen was Hal stayed alive and was able to TP 3 times while other teams were getting eliminated, so he squeaked out a few points for them. TSM will actually get 3rd, so your top 3 is once again going to be Rogue there in 1st, Team Liquid in 2nd, Team Solo Mid in 3rd in the end. And it's only going to set us up for a pretty fantastic games number 4 and 5.
Crazy ending there. Liquid did everything that they possibly could to utilize that crate, hold it down, but at the end, right, the numbers advantage for Rogue was simply going to be too much for them. And that was quite...
Sounds like, I'm not sure, we might have lost GB, but we're going to go ahead and now throw it over to our analysts who are going to break down that past match and get us ready for game number 4 as well.
Thank you so much, Bravo. Follow here, joined back with Lulu Lovely, and Golden Boy literally threw to his death there as the death box replaced Golden Boy. That was quite the epic segment of events. Big shout to Golden Boy, and a big thank you to Golden Boy, and thank you to all of our viewers that are helping us as we're currently dealing with some connection and tech issues and learning every single time. It's been an awesome broadcast each time, but thank you all so much for joining us. Glad we have a chance to at least bring this action and bring this broadcast to everyone who loves competitive Apex. Lulu, game number 3 is in the books, and this time around we see a team that we haven't seen a whole lot of. It's Rogue. They come out on top with the victory here. Talk to me about this Rogue squad and what works so well for them.
Yeah, Rogue's one of those big names that we didn't really see last time, and I believe they weren't in the finals last time.
Correct, yep.
But here we see them. They got the good side of that circle. That is a tough circle. We saw so many teams running like zombie hordes, from the sorting side to the dome side, fighting just neck and neck. But, Rogue, they had the good side. They were there. They were ready. And even though Liquid kind of had a better spot, they were in that, the nice little platform area. Rogue pulls through, and we've seen them perform very well in the past. And, I think they're just brushing off some dust, and they really showed up with this game.
Massive in a massive way. Let's go ahead and take a look at the final moments here to see how the action broke down. But good breakdown. You're right. That was a grueling late game circle for so many teams. I like the zombie horde reference as well. But two teams that were pretty well positioned. You're spot on. It was Team Liquid and Rogue. As TL was in a solid spot. I mean, you're right. This rock positioning that they had, they were an early rotate. They were in center ring. But ultimately, Rogue on the flank was able to come out on top and take out all members of TL and play their numbers advantage well. They knew they had a 2 versus 1, and they knew all they had to do was trade shots, and ultimately they did come out on top in that late game. So a big shout out and very, very well done for Rogue in game number 3, a very important game number 3. Another team that we watched a little bit of, and we again saw a team come back from the dead there was Complexity. We got some love on Twitter for Complexity right now, as they definitely need your love. They need your energy after a big game number 1. It looks like Jiminy OG had some great things to say about Complexity on Twitter, as he was giving them all types of hype. They went huge in game number 1 with 17 kills. That's a record from what we've seen. And Jimino Casts shared, we got a very tame game 1 of the NA bracket of ALGS Online tourney number 3 at Play Apex. Shout out to Complexity for the first win of the finals. Hopefully we get some more frags, mid-rotations in the next few matches. Good luck to all teams. Hashtag Apex Legends. So big shout out to Jimino Cast for tuning in. And you guys, of course, can tweet at Play Apex using hashtag Apex Legends as well. And Mirko had to get a little mid-game tweet in as well, which I never like to see, Lulu, from a player, because that's like the ultimate curse. And Complexity hasn't had the best game 2 and 3 since.
Yeah, we saw them have to, they fought early on over there at Harvester, and then leaving Mon, the only one alive, he gets their tags, reses them, and then they were able to little, poke and kind of get armor, but they don't have the best, setup. And then they fight again. I believe they ran into Boba Boys in sorting, and that left Mirko as the last one alive. But they had an unfortunate game, but, they've been doing good. They dropped a huge game, so I can see them definitely coming back and even stronger maybe next game.
Yeah, that's a good call. And not to mention, you mentioned the grueling circle and the grueling end game. Well, Complexity dropped north side, had to rotate all the way through, got caught in that choke point, lost a few, and tried making chicken soup out of nothing. But instead, it was able to come back, get some revives in, but a difficult rotation coming through Harvester. They ended up getting taken out. Team Liquid ends up on top. Another team that we saw go massive in game number 2 with a 27-point win, got taken out earlier, was Flying Saucerers, right?
Yeah, I believe they were the first team to get taken out. So, who knows what could have happened. They took a fight they shouldn't. Maybe someone decided, oh, they're doing good, let's land on them. But unfortunately, they did get taken out first this time.
Yeah, so despite being in, I think they were in first place after game number 2, a early exit in game number 3 continues to shake things up, and we keep talking about the consistency of TSM, but some way, somehow, I think it was Imperial Hal that managed to stay alive and end up getting his
ported
team
3 times.
Yeah, exactly, continuously porting, got a 3rd place finish, and 9 points picked up. Even though they got 2 kills, the 9-point game for TSM getting 3rd place in that one was huge. And Fnatic NA with a solid performance here in game number 3 as well. Currently they're sitting with 10 points total with 7 kills. Despite getting eliminated, I think they got like 7th or 8th place. They're able to pick up a lot of kills and come out with a top 3 finish in game number 3. Team Liquid Blue, though, and Rogue with 19 and 20 respectively. So a very, very strong showing. And that leads to our overall standings, which, Team Liquid Blue with a huge showing right there. 1st place finish puts them well ahead in 1st place here, Lulu.
And we have a 3-way tie between Complexity, Flying Saucerers, and TSM, both sitting at 32 points.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
I don't think we've ever seen that in the top 4 before. That neck and neck 3-way tie for top 4 between those 3 teams. Rogue right behind them with 24.
And this is kind of like, what we saw in EU, a different team winning every game. And, so not, Team Liquid, they do have a bit of a lead there, but it's not anything crazy, We still have, a few more games and anything can still happen.
Yeah. And one thing we haven't seen yet, knock on wood if you're a TSM fan, but we haven't seen a TSM win just yet. We did see them last time around, game number 3 and 5, I believe they took. And you said it earlier, how great they are in the late games when it matters the most, when their backs are against the wall. They step up. We'll see if they can do that here, as they're currently sitting tied in top 4. No victories to their name just yet, but consistently placing top 4. So, Lulu, again, consistency continues to be the key here for TSM.
Yeah, and sometimes they perform later on. We've seen them be in sticky situations before and they pull through, but maybe this is the time that they get dethroned. Who knows? Who knows?
And again, we say it every broadcast. We always kind of wait to see if things are going to be shaken up. And TSM always manages to clutch up. We'll see if that happens again here in online tournament number 3 as we're taking a look at the highlights here from this one. This is the early game fight that Monsoon was somehow able to make it out alive from.
Oh, he did it.
Yeah, with no HP at all. And he was stunned, I believe, by an Arc Star or something. Still manages to sneak out and stay alive in that one. Great plays from Monsoon, but of course, he was knocked out. Meanwhile, Smile got caught in an early game fight.
Oh, the zombie hordes.
Yeah,
this is when everyone, anyone that was caught on that south side, the sorting side, they really had a tough time rotating in.
Worst one of the worst circles, most punishing late game circles. Here's this late game fight between Rogue and Team Liquid, and despite Rogue winning for the first place finish, it is Team Liquid currently sitting atop the leaderboards with 41 points in first place, ahead of Complexity, Flying Saucers, and TSM, who are all tied at 32 points. So interesting how things got shaken up here. Team Liquid with a massive showing. We've always talked about Team Liquid as a team who is obviously a very well-renowned organization. Big shots, Team Liquid. They had this awesome Marvel mix-up and apparel line lately. But in Apex, the team has not shown up in a massive way in any of our major tournaments. It's the first time we're really seeing them do big things so far. We don't want to jinx them by any means. There's still a few games to go here.
Yeah, honestly, and I believe Casper is recovering from being sick too, and here they are pulling out a win. So they're doing big things.
Speaking of Michael Jordan, with your MJ cold performance here, hopefully, big shout to Casper as he's shown up in a big way here in game number 3. They're currently atop the leaderboards, and it looks like game number 4 is ready to go here. So our casters are going to be taking this one away. It's going to be Jamerson and Rain Day back on the mic. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you so much, Fallout and Lulu. Jamerson, we've had such an amazing day here, and it's time for us to take it through for Game 4 before we toss it back for the final game of North America. But before we get into game, I kind of want to preface the thoughts of the day that we've been having thus far. What have you seen? What have you been poking at? What kind of that analytical mind, Fallout calls you the brain of Apex, what have you picked up as far as the themes of today for a viewer, and also what you expect heading into any changes for games 4 and 5?
It's been absolutely nuts. And, TSM, they've been consistent. They've been making it into the top 5, right? They had a third-place finish, a 4th-place finish, and a 3rd-place finish in that last game. And I've been saying this for some time now. It's been difficult, more and more difficult as these tournaments progress for them to try and find those wins, because as these lobbies get more stacked with teams and players that have more experience, there are going to be a lot more teams that play similarly and try to have same rotation paths as TSM. That edge that they early on grew in the competitive scene, it is slowly closing, and we're seeing the fruits of that, fruits of the work of every team that's been putting in the grind in scrims, really showing up here, and especially other teams like Liquid really showing up today.
And what I think you see as far as that, and great points as well, Liquid, what an incredible performance. We saw Nocturnal with an Evo Shield and a Devotion. Give me those in my casual games. I could finally have the kind of content I want, man. I can't get more than a 13-kill game. Somebody help me, Jamerson. Somebody help me.
Stuck trying to get, I think, my 20 badge on Pathfinder for some time now.
Okay.
Like, always getting 19. Always getting 19, and just not close enough.
You know what's worse, man? 3,000 and, 999, not quite the 4K. Not quite that 4K. You're like, anything would have done it. You just start thinking about your life, how you just should have lived it all differently in order to not have that moment occur. But alas, we'll stop talking about the pains of Apex Legends. We got a lot of good things happening in this game as well that a lot of us here watching love and enjoy. Rain Day Jamerson on the cast to fill you in for game number 4. Things stand pretty tight at the top with Liquid Blue after a big win, actually a big second place there against Rogue, who did take the victory, find themselves with 41 points, and then, of course, Complexity with 32 after winning game 1 in a big way. Flying Saucers being able to win just recently as well. And then, of course, Rogue taking another victory. So the 4 teams who have won games pretty much all in the top. The 3 teams that have won games all in the top, and so we'll see how this squares off as we start out in Capital City.
Yeah, we're on board with Second Nature here. They're dropping on Fragment East, and this is TSM's drop spot. They're getting challenged off the bat here. TSM, Imperial Hal, he's got that purple armor, and this is going to slow down their rotation massively here. So this is not what they want going into this. We have a massive tie amongst our top 5 right now with 32 points. TSM, I believe, sitting in 6th. So this is the worst case scenario for them.
Yeah, TSM actually in 4th here, so they're in a pretty good spot, tied up 32 in a 3-way tie for 2nd. And so this is even worse, I think, when you look at what they're considering playing for. Trying to get to 1st, you cannot let this lead extend from what it is currently, which is 9 points in front of them being Team Liquid Blue. So they've got a lot of work to do to get out of that one, but we wondered, when was it going to happen? When was TSM going to get contested? Even if it's a desperate play, we see that may start to happen here, as Second Nature is only in 18th with 8 points. So maybe just trying to find a shakeup and do something different. Avoid the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results.
Yeah, and it's again for our top teams so far, having trouble making their rotations because they have people in the way right now. The Circle pulling down to the south over here at Sorting Factory, and so a lot of teams, they're trying to prioritize getting in there, but getting gate kept from trying to find a center position is going to be very difficult for NRG to find the proper rotation. I really want to see what Frex pulls his team towards here, as we are now on board with RCO, and already 2 people down. Holiday going to bleed out, and it's going to be left up to Nando.
RCO 16th place as well, and not a good spot that you would like to see. Nando not the same positionally as a legend like Pathfinder to be able to get in and out as quickly with the burst of the grappling hook, or of course the zip line if he needs to. But the portal is a possibility. He has the Into the Void, which is invulnerability, and that's the only way you can make sure you take no damage, but it's brief. And after the recent changes, it's actually an extra 10 seconds before it comes back online. And maybe not so recent now if you've played any of the latest patches, with, of course, the newest patch coming out tomorrow. If you want to stick around, you're excited what you see here, make sure to check out the Old Ways event, which is happening tomorrow morning for Apex. New Bloodhound event, which is destined to be pretty dang cool.
All right, so we do have a hard southeastern pull on the Circle, and we all know what that means. Lava City is in play, and looking at one of the Pathfinder beacons, it is going to be falling over Lava City, so this is a circle that teams are familiar with. Currently, it looks like there's only about 4 teams in there, with other teams trying to make the rotate now. It's a little slow, and so we'll see if they're going to be able to make it in right now. Again, we talked about a lot of these teams, NRG, TSM, getting challenged early on, not able to make this rotate early, so this is going to be difficult games for them. This is really going to test them, right? Usually they're the ones that have a lot of priority on their rotations, and now we're going to see them playing a lot more edge.
And this is why I like teams like TSM, and I think NRG proving themselves to be much more informed today. I don't know what it is. Maybe the synergy, maybe this unique look for them has started to improve, or maybe it's just that kind of day and all the other days were a little bit off. But I feel that they have done at least a much stronger performance over the consistency of the 5 games than we've seen in many tournaments past. And so you can look at that as being a sign of bright things for the future if you're an NRG fan. Over on the side, though, of Nathan, he's trying to figure out if he can get a kill as he's chasing down one with the R99. That spray, a lot of recoil, but these pros so good at controlling it. He's just going to track him down, but again, they're starting to get farther out of their zone and rotating into another squad, as you can see, flying above them. Do they want to keep committing on this, James?
Yeah, well, the thing is, with this timing right now, right, we have 2 minutes and 20 seconds left for this circle to close. They know that most of the teams have already made their rotations. They just spotted one team ballooning as well. And so the threat of getting third-partied is very low. So they can continue to aggress on this, which is exactly what we're seeing. They're setting up a crossfire. They're trying to set up the trap for them. There's a knock here, trying to get the thirst.
That's Huskers. That's Rogue. That is a big deal. That is the team directly in front of them with 24 points. Only 3 points behind is NRG. If they were to somehow get a win here, putting themselves in contention for first in this overall tournament, it would be a very special thing, since they have been having some ups and downs, of course, and some roster swaps over the course of this year's competitive scene. And they've already downed Huskers here. As they can tell, this is a very big push. Maybe why they were committing so hard, Jamerson. They realized this was Rogue, and they wanted to see if they can end their rival, or at least cripple them earlier than later.
Yeah, that's huge, but they lost Frexus there, and so trade 1 for 1. They haven't recovered the banner quite yet. They have plenty of space to work with, along with that 2 respawn beacons around here that they could really use, but Nathan has to back off as he gets cracked.
And you can see that Into the Void going to now be a 27-second cooldown, and part of the reasons why I just mentioned it was 35 is because it's got that gold helmet, which we'll see sometimes shift on and off depending on who needs it most. Going to help with the tactical and the ultimate right now. Nathan running that, but we could easily see that swapped on 2 more if they need to somehow effort themselves. A little bit of a pylon for Watson towards the late game, and they don't have an ultimate accelerant in the pocket logically here. Former SSG member now holding down this building, already early rotate towards that Lava City side.
Yeah, this is what we're used to seeing as we see on the minimap here. Every team, basically 15 teams already inside Lava City proper. On the south side, the Flying Saucerers not able to secure a building yet, but they do secure some great kills. And honestly, they can play this side. You have to imagine that not too many teams are going to be rotating from the south here. So all they have to really do is just stay behind this rock, wait out the zones, wait out the time, and just clear their back. Make sure that no one rotates in from the west and the south.
A lot of truth to that as well. I mean, different ways to go about this, but at the end of the day, we've seen this circle many times in competitive, and we've seen it many times over the last online tournaments as well. We mentioned in the start of Europe, and we now mention here as well in the beginning, actually the end of NA last week, with that amazing TSM nade. I wonder if this will spell deja vu for the TSM boys, or if it'll be a little harder this time around, seeing that they gave up some of their, I would say one of their best tricks in that moment to get the results.
Yeah, right now, again, it's all about teams trying to find this proper position here. There are a number of circles. We did see one earlier today during EU. It was where we had a very similar circle to game number 5 from NA online tournament number 2, but instead it pulled to the east of the building instead of to the south. Again, there are still some that can end north side of the train station. There's one that ends over by the Vault Cave. So teams just have to wait this out. Be patient right now. 19 squads still left, 55 players still here. And we saw there quickly on the minimap, there are 4 teams on the far western edge of the zone right now. That's Rogue, that's NRG. I want to know who the other 2 teams are over there.
And getting that information will come in just a little bit, minute and 16 before the second circle closes, and we force a few more engagements as well, but teams will be biding their time. A little bit more patience you may see, and a little bit more aggressiveness. It's kind of like that duality of game number 4, where you're looking to either gain points and be a little more aggressive than you normally are because you're in a worse position than usual, or where you're trying to just really maintain. Maybe a place where Liquid Blue might be finding themselves. If we check on them, we haven't seen them in a minute, but I'm sure they are staying alive in the best way possible, trying to get some of those early rotations. We found them really content in that last round, right where the circle ended, and so we may see that and a little bit more in this one.
Yeah, we're on board with NRG, who were able to recover Frex's banner and get that res using the respawn beacon over at Tree. That is their normal drop spot, and that's where they're going to be able to just recover from this and be able to get in. Now, I believe there's still one team on the western side that might try and play Gatekeeper. It looks like it's going to be Smile that are standing in their way. We'll see exactly how they rotate. Do they try to go a little bit further south, taking that connector down to Dome, or do they go in that valley toward the Vault's Cave?
Well, that is a good question. I mean, you talk about what do you do? And sometimes I think we think that these teams are just this like all-knowing group of individuals. Sometimes the conversation, Jamerson, is that where should we go? What do we do? And there's dissent between 2 players as to which is the better route and how they were to play that. No necessarily right answer or wrong answer. You just got to do the best with what you decide to do. And like I always like to say, a good plan, done half well is worse than a bad plan done fully well with perfect execution. And so sometimes you just have to commit to something and do it to the best of your ability.
And this is the commit coming out from Team NRG right now. They took a very roundabout way going to the south side towards Dome. And they do get spotted by Smile, but this is much safer than if they had tried to push through the valleys towards the Vault City. Now the charge rifle coming in, cracks the right armor there. They've got to be careful.
Dangerous stuff. You can see on that Smile side, they're fine having 300 light ammo for that G7 Scout because of the pace of these games. Your games, they may be a little different because you might not need that for a Scout. Maybe if you have an R99 or an R301, or maybe you're running 2 light weapons, but these guys are going to spend so much time holed up, and there's so little room to loot at this point unless you win a fight or in the thick of a chaotic moment that you kind of have to prepare. If you're running a Scout, have as much light ammo as you can to poke that thing throughout the entire match. And so 19 squads still left, Jamerson. Minute 50 here. What's the call if you're holding this as Smile? Do you rotate now? Do you wait?
Well, right now they're trying their best to play Gatekeeper against NRG, and they're going to have a difficult time. I think they do have to push forward. Luckily for them, they'll have a little bit to work with pushing in from the western side without too much trouble. Now, we'll see if Complexity really posture up on the outside of the shell and try to play Gatekeeper against Smile at this point, but it's going to be a very dangerous task because we do know that NRG is somewhere here to the south. They were considering going for those buildings within Dome proper, but just back away now, play a little bit more open, play gatekeeping from the high ground here on the western edge.
Couple of big notables as well. Sniper Abusers, they're holed up in one of the houses. Snipe down Android Dreamer and BCJ in Lava City, but they're getting pressured out now on a rotation. Rocker, Apex, Teen, and Crust, they're also finding themselves in one of those adjacent houses in Lava City. So those teams died on rotation last round and actually decided to rotate super early. So you could see the basically the exact antithesis of what they did before being adjusted and corrected for. I like the decision, even if it doesn't work out, to just completely get in there and not get caught on the rotation.
Yeah, I think this is a great call coming out from Complexity, definitely holding on this western edge here. Just for the simple fact that you know that a lot of teams are still holed up in Lava City right now. If they can get a power position within Dome and the ring decides to pull down towards Dome, they'll have the opportunity to be in that same predicament or same situation that we saw in game number 1 and game number 2, where you're just free shooting and poking away at teams that are rotating in. It's a much easier rotate to go from, I would say, from Dome into Lava City than from Lava City into Dome, because you're running uphill, right? If you're trying to rotate from Lava City up to Dome.
Right.
And so that's why they're positioning there. I really like it right now. We're on board with Rogue, who were also able to get the res early on. I believe it was Huskers who went down, right?
Yeah,
so
and they just respawned him, I believe.
Yeah.
And so they got, I think they swapped. I think now they've lost Sweet, and Huskers was the one who was down. And so they did the respawn. And I don't know if you would take that trade. Huskers is a pretty great player. Maybe they just said, hey, listen, I'll risk my life to get you back. But I don't know about that call, Jamerson. Seems like a decent play for me, and they'll try to get Sweet as well. They've got his banner. There is a beacon, but it's closing in, and it's too much of a risk, I would assume, considering he's the only one that would have been able to revive himself really easily with that raid portal.
This is very interesting now as we see Smile getting cleaned up. And so last we saw them, they were on the western edge, and they decided to try and go for Lava City. They thought that was the pull, but as we can see on the mini-map with Hollow here, the Boba boys, the ring does indeed pull south down to the Dome. So Complexity are really happy with that right now. So are NRG, who are already over there.
And it looks like Huskers and Rogue, who find themselves in 5th place, only 8 points behind the 3 teams, Complexity, Flying Saucerers, and Team Solomid, who are tied with 32 points for 3rd, to just hold. They want to play this a little safer. You're noticing Rocker Apex and the boys of Squidward now down and trying to fight for their lives. Teeny's going to go down. Rocker Apex could fall here. 17 squads, and that should do it for the boys of Squidward, and so they will fall out. They were number 9. It was 16 points as well, Jamerson. Things starting to get a little testy here as the circle has closed in round 4.
A huge pickup. Narrowing down the field, especially on this northeast side of the map, is going to make your rotation that much easier going in. Now, there are still a few teams that they have to deal with. I'm not saying it's an easy task, but it's definitely easier now, especially after picking up those kill points. We're on the cusp of getting into placement points threshold. We're at 16 teams left, so you just want to try and survive for that one extra point here.
And look at this. The Happy Campers Fury trying to get to safety. They're making a rotation because this man has 4 wingman bullets. and 19 shotgun pellets. And so he's going to have to get some heavy from his teammates, but they just may not have it. The rotation might have happened early enough to where they don't have anything else, and everyone that they fought, they have not been able to loot. So that should be an interesting one. Back with Logically and the boys. Force what? He goes down right away and Logically could be in trouble. That is Mirko and Complexity who may move in on the Havoc damage. It's just not enough to stop Monsoon from getting the kill.
Logically is going to try and queue out of this, but now he is in a huge, dangerous spot here. He's getting chased down with 5 HP left, but that's Complexity.
Yeah, nah.
Using that power position that we talked about early on. Positioning up here, making sure they were out of the fray for this rotation coming out from the northeast side of the map, but they still have to be careful. They'll be able to recover a lot of good utility here coming into the late game. This is a huge pickup for Complexity.
And like you mentioned, Jamerson, things a little different than what many teams who had rotated earlier thought. It's not the same circle from last weekend's finals with TSM and that grenade play you might have seen over Twitter being shared. But no, this is a full rotate for most of those teams. Sniper abusers as well, and you can see the chaos is occurring. 12 squads, 11 squads left. TSM, Hal finds Mirko. BCJ actually gets the kill, and Huskers, and Drop goes down. Rogue is out of the fight. TSM, though, finding kills meanwhile, and Monsoon and all of Complexity, except for Mirko, still alive.
Yeah, that's a huge bubble for Complexity, allows them to reset. They did lose Mirko. I think Mirko got caught inside a death box there on that rotation as Monsoon was trying to port them into safety. It just was not down in time, and he goes down. Monsoon surviving with 1 HP, and here comes an Arc Star. We'll see if he gets off the heel, and no, he doesn't!
Oh, you hate to see it, you hate to see it. Reptar, he's got a decision and he's got an ultimate. How's it going to play out? He's going to try to just run his way through zone. Can he get there? He's got one more tick of health. He gets it. The battery's got to go off. Doesn't want to throw the dome. He's just going to throw his ult and say, hey, if you want to commit on me, you might kill yourself. And they're just going to say, I don't care. Let me finish you off. TSM, the finishers of Complexity. So they take out their top competition in this game so far. The team, one of the 3 teams, tied with them for second place.
That's a huge pickup, and once again, TSM within the top 5. We never question it if they're going to make the top 5. It's about whether or not they can close out this game right now. You got Sniper Abusers, I would say one of their rivals, waiting in the wings here, trying to take them out in the top 5 as well. But
That's
TSM,
true.
they've got a great spot here to try and rotate in on this.
And Jamerson, an incredible showcase here. We've got pretty much 3 of the top teams still alive as well. But we've got Fnatic, a team we've talked so much about throughout all of North America, but have yet to really see them have their big moment. Could this be it? And kind of cool TSM at this moment where it looks like they're getting momentum yet again. Reps levels up the Evo shield. He's got it to level 5, but he's got to heal it up. And it doesn't look like the shield cells are coming fast enough. They may have to loot. And this is Hal forcing the aggression. And 4 squads left now. And you can see it's Fnatic. It's Sniper Abusers. It's TSM. And I believe it's still Nocturnal and the boys of Liquid. We cannot confirm. I haven't seen them in a minute, Jamerson, but that's who I think is still alive.
Yeah, and speaking of positioning right now, though, TSM in a great spot. Now, they were able to get that pocket to be able to reset after that, you know, swap around the armor, swap around utility, and get ready for this. This is where Hal really comes alive, where he has the opportunity to just slow it down a little bit, think about the position, and take a look at the damage coming out from Hal and Reps right now, as Hal gets the knock onto BCJ.
And what do you not want to do? Give the 5-time back-to-back champions 2 Evo shields fully leveled up, but that's what they've done. Abrolelli holding up the top as cover fire for his teammates. Hal's going to pop a Phoenix. They're just going to reset. 3 squads left. That's it. It is Fnatic. It is TSM. They are going at it, and of course, it is Liquid, the leader of the lobby themselves. 3 teams vying for first place here. Jamerson, it's all coming down to this, but Fnatic really showing up to maybe play spoiler to both of these other teams.
This would be a huge boon to Fnatic, who are currently sitting on 16 points. But as we can see, Spirit himself has 4 points as the kill leader right now. And it's Liquid getting pinched in between both Fnatic and TSM. That is not a spot I envy right now. Fnatic climbing up to try and get this high ground here to get a good vantage point to try and gatekeep TSM, who have to rotate into this circle.
And TSM here trying, I'm sure, to make sure they do not have to fight the team before the other team fights them. The third party Oh boy, you know it, you love it, but that's not what they wanted. They want to win. Now TSM, not 1, not 2, but 3 Evo shields fully upgraded, and this is looking dangerous. They get a crack onto the armor. 3 squads left still holding high ground, and the Peacekeeper shots start to fly.
Liquid tried to peek that for a quick second, but they had to back off. The PK shot's not quite landing there. It's Imperial Howl with the high ground. They do have the Watson ultimate. It just got cleared. And now take a look at damage coming across Rain Day.
And they're just trying to survive right now. Look at the damage. It is so much. He's going to reset it again, and they've got the shield bats, but there's no fast heal. It's just a lot of heal, so they've got to see if they can get it off, and Albrelli is safe, at least for now. Fnatic have lost one. Liquid get one with the Mastiff, and Nocturnal so close to going down. Flanker trying to get the shield cell off, and not yet. They can't push yet. No one feels comfortable ending this game, but it's getting close as Albrelli is a sliver of life away from dying.
Casper putting in work with that Mastiff, and now it's down to about 30 HP between Hal. It's all up to Hal here, but no, he's not going to be able to survive now. It's all up to Fnatic here to close it all out. Team Liquid stuck.
And they are going to stay stuck, Jamerson. That's the victory. It's Fnatic who come through with the W out of nowhere, taking down their rivals right now in the ALGS Online Qualifier number 3 with a Mastiff, and a moment that those teams should be remembering. It's not just TSM's show, not just Liquid. Fnatic is in the game, and Shiny and Squad end up having one heck of a performance. Jamerson, that last moment, I mean, it could have gone either way.
Yeah, and that was really surprising. It looked like TSM had the initiative. They had the advantage. As Liquid was playing inside the cargo truck and you had Fnatic pushing forward, you figured that the fight was going to happen on the low ground and TSM would be able to clean that up. There were knocks and trades going out as Casper, like I said, was putting in work with that Mastiff, but they didn't get the thirst, and so Fnatic were able to res. They were able to basically reshield themselves up, get back into that fight as a full 3, and clean that up.
Incredible stuff. I mean, what a fantastic play from all of the teams involved. And so interesting how in Game 4, we have a new villain, or at least a contagonist, insert themselves into the story. Will it mean more for Fnatic, who found themselves in 8th, now climbing and in the conversation to maybe take first place? Or will it be Liquid? Will it be TSM? Or Complexity and Rogue fighting for that number 1 spot? We'll have to find out in Game 5. But that's it for Rain Day and Jamerson. Send it back to Fallout and Lulu for some analysis.
Thank you so much, Rain Day, for the amazing cliffhanger, by the way. That was, we got to throw Rain Day on like a soap opera or something. That was brilliant, setting us up perfectly for some analysis and discussion as we get ready for what's undoubtedly going to be a crazy Game 5. Before we even get there, I have Lulu Lovely to help me break down the action because things get shaken up undoubtedly here after Game 4. TSM remains consistent. We saw a different TSM. We saw them frag out quite a bit there, Lulu. Before we talk about Fnatic and their finish, talk me through TSM and what works so well for them in that mid to late game.
Well, you know, like we've seen before, they know their rotations. They'll rotate early. This time around, they didn't have the best gear, but they were able to just position themselves right, pick off people rotating in. We saw them wipe out 2 teams back to back, get 3 Evo shields. You know, they upgraded their loadouts considerably. But, you know, they really didn't have a place to go besides the top of that truck. And, you know, the sniper abusers were there. They got kind of double teamed. Everyone was focused them, and then TSM was just trying to fend off Fnatic at one end, you know, Team Liquid on the other end, and they couldn't fend off 2 teams at once. And ultimately, it was Fnatic taking the win here, which gives us a new winner again. So it's going to be really interesting, yeah, to see what the leaderboards are going to look like there.
Yep, 4 games and 4 different winners. I can't wait. Of course, our team is hard at work getting the leaderboards calculated right now, but not one of those 4 winners is TSM yet. And guess what? We have a game number 5. It's been a crazy, crazy day of action. TSM potentially being dethroned despite their consistent performance. We've had so many other teams step up, but we all know what TSM does best. They clutch up in game 5 when it matters the most. This roster of Albrelli, Reps, and Imperial Hal is too good. We had a chance to catch up with Imperial Hal. Let's go ahead and take a look at this feature.
As a player, I'm known for my leadership than anything. Very strict and like it's demanding, and I take like everything very serious. My name is Philip Dozen. I go by Imperial Hal and I play for TSM. Legend, if choice is Wraith, I figured out that with the Q of Wraith, it gives me the ability to be aggressive and then go out of the fight. I think what makes my teammates great players is we all can criticize each other without anybody kind of getting their feelings hurt. The things that we do in the final moments of the game, it kind of goes like autopilot. We all have our own, job, depending on, what the situation is or scenario is exactly. As soon as final circle opens, I know what I'm doing, they know what they're doing, so that's usually how it goes. The feeling to win is, you can't even describe it. You feel relieved. You feel like everything that you've done paid off.
But TSM, they have no mercy. Shot from the wingman, unbelievable. He's going for the snapshot on the long ball, but it ain't gonna happen.
Going from a lot of failure and not, even being close to winning a tournament, you can understand the feeling of losing and then the feeling of winning. Being on top of NA is amazing.
Oh my God. Let's go! 5-time, baby!
Everyone's gunning for us now.
Just a setback here for TSM. Who is going to do it? TSM, you're your champion.
One of the most dominant teams in esports today. You see the hype, you see the passion, you see the intensity that they play with Lulu. It is unmatched. They are so incredibly good.
Yeah, and if you follow Hal's stream and watch his stream a lot, you would have seen a little bit of a preview of that interview when he accidentally went live during that interview. Some great memes. One of his new emotes came from that. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what they do and, see who wins this online tourney.
Crazy. The fact that once again in an online tournament here of ALGS, it goes down to the very last game. Same exact setup we had just 2 weeks ago when TSM clutched up and took home a first place finish in a dominant Game 5. Will we see it again? Game 4, however, was the Fnatic show. A huge shout out to Shiny Muffins & Co. with a massive Game 4 that puts them in the running with overall standings. We'll take a look at the overall standings and see where they're at. And it looks like they are a top 5, tied with Complexity. Ooh. And very, very far behind Team Liquid Blue and TSM. 10 points behind TSM, 16 points behind Team Liquid Blue. It's an interesting shakeup here, Lulu.
Yeah, and we're still really not seeing one team holding on and monopolizing all the points here. First through fifth, it's not, it's not that big of a difference. TSM's only 8 points behind, so that's one good game. If Team Liquid goes out early next game, that could be the opening TSM or Flying Saucerers or even Complexity and Fnatic need to take this home.
Yeah, you're spot on. Any of those top 5 teams are really so close and so evenly matched here. One big pop-off, and Energy really needs a huge pop-off if they want to have an opportunity here in game number 5 to take home a first-place finish. It's going to be a crazy game number 5. I know there's a lot of TSM fans right out there. I know there's a lot of TSMs in the chat. One in particular on Twitter that we had a chance to check out is rooting for TSM in game number 5, is hoping that TSM can clutch up yet again in game number 5. If you're a fan of a legacy story, of a team and a dynasty that is dominating, you're a fan of TSM. AJ Senpai, Ninja Slayer 22 on Twitter said, #ALGS. My bets are on TSM to come back and take the dub. I know they got this. TSM has been playing from behind ever since game number 1, with Complexity starting very, very strong. They slowly just worked consistently to get themselves to a second place finish. Lulu, my question to you is, I got to ask you, do you think they can do it? Do you think it's going to happen again here in game number 5?
I wouldn't be surprised. That's my go-to answer here. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they do, pull through. But there's so many other teams that are also performing so well, and it's really neck and neck. And I love, when the tourneys turn out this way, when there's a new winner every time. That makes it so much more exciting, I feel like. But we'll see. Anything can happen in this game.
Will the Kings be dethroned? We'd love to hear your thoughts. You saw it on screen there. Use #ALGS. Tweet at us right now. It looks like game number 5 is ready. Will TSM be dethroned, or will it be a 6-peat championship for the Kings? To call the action, we have Bravo and Golden Boy. Gentlemen, game number 5, take it away.
All right, fingers crossed that nothing of mine breaks here. If it does, it will genuinely be hilarious. If like mid-sentence it just so happened to break. But we're just gonna roll with it. We're just gonna roll with it, and we're just gonna see what happens.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, sounds
Let's do
good.
it. This is gonna be. This is gonna be pretty hype. Once again, it's we really couldn't ask. It's not guaranteed game. 5 games is long enough that you could have a team that really pulls out ahead and kind of has a guaranteed win. We've seen it before in Apex, but we've been really lucky with our online tournaments recently that every single series is going 5 games, and at the end of going into the 5th game, really anyone within that top group can take it, and I absolutely can't wait to see who does it.
Yeah. This is going to be nuts to see if anyone other than TSM can win a competition in professional Apex. You got Complexity still has an opportunity. Fnatic jumped up a few spots. They had a few big performances in games 3 and 4. But then, Team Liquid, man, I think like I was talking to I forget who it was. I think it was Fallout, or I'm not remembering exactly, but we were chatting about it. It was like, man, I really want to see this Liquid team perform. And then look what's happening, right? They've kind of just like awoken after game 2, being able to clutch out and get top 3, not once, but 3 times. Games 2, 3, and 4 finishing in the top 3. This is big for them. Let's see if they can keep this one going, Bravo. We're all loaded up and ready to go into the dropship. It is now time to jump into the jungle. That is World's Edge.
And you could not ask for really a more north to south ride here in terms of this initial drop to see exactly where we're headed. If you're just joining us, folks, this is game number 5 of the Apex Legends Global Series North American Finals. Welcome along. So glad to have you joining us here on the East Coast in New York, where Golden Boy and I are both located. It is 11:18 p.m., but I know around the world we're going to have people joining us at all hours of the night, even the morning. So thank you so much for tuning in. Team Liquid Blue in first place with 54. Team Solo Mid, your 5-time champions, in second with 48. The pressure is on. Flying Saucers in third with 39. Complexity, who we've been talking a lot about, tied with Fnatic NA at third. For fourth and fifth. That is your top 5, and we have 1 game left to settle it.
How crazy is it that TSM 4 games finishes in the top 3? That is just, the consistency out of this team is ridiculous, man. But again, though, they gotta pick up the big dub. You can be consistent all throughout the competition, but if you do not lock down that first place finish, well, what is it all for at the end, right? If you're playing that well, that consistent.
You heard Hal talk about it in the interview, right? He was like, everyone is gunning for us, and they know it now. And to be honest, we talked about in online tournament number 2. It's almost an unfair amount of pressure on them, just because the expectation is that they'll absolutely win every single event they play, because that's the only thing they've done. So pressure is on them. They are down right now by 6 points from Team Liquid Blue. That is their biggest threat. They've got a little bit of a cushion between them and Flying Saucers, but they are going to need to play this entire game and make sure that they are sitting in a good place, and that anyone else who's within that top 5 that I outlined at the top of the game, that they are well and far away in terms of points by the end of the match.
Yeah, one of those teams are RCO White here. Fortunately for them, they only have, going into this one, they only have 10 points. If they have a massive game, kind of like what we saw in game number 1, I believe, from Complexity, right? One of those like miracle games where you lock down 17 kills, first place finish, just craziness across the board. You can start to fight your way up those placements. But the reality is, man, that is going to be a tall hill to climb up on. Then you also have teams that have just been doing such a great job playing the end game, staying consistent. It's been impressive to see, Bravo, and this is all coming down to this moment right here. We say it time and time again, almost like a broken record, but this truly is anyone's ball game.
It really is, and TSM with such strong performances, like you said, especially towards the tail end of this series thus far. We'll go ahead and take a look at exactly where things are pulling here, as teams are going to slowly make their way across Hill Valley and into Train. And we've been lucky because, as we talked about in both North America and Europe, we've had some pretty similar circles. And then as the series went on, we got a lot of end circle variety as well. We'll have to see exactly how this one plays out.
Yeah, we've had some wacky circles in this competition so far. Some repeats, which is how is it that EU and NA kind of just have like 2 you know, not one-to-one spot repeats, but, you know, pretty darn close to one another is kind of nuts. And then we ended up seeing the same team pretty much end out in the top 5 there, which is wild, the consistency across the board from these squads.
And by the way, we do have a beacon already on one of the path teams. We are pulling pretty far west off of this central. We are not going dead center. We are going Mirage Voyage. Train Yard is still in. A corner of Harvester and a piece of North Thermal is still in. So this is essentially a west central pull right now for our first beacon we're seeing.
Interesting stuff there. Going to maybe a little Mirage Voyage. Fun with Mirage. Always a good time.
A lot of teams are actually already setting up there. Hot Springs, High Ground Bridge, Mirage Voyage, Springs End, all of those areas are already getting grabbed pretty quick. We have about 4 to 5 teams already over there, which I'm sure we're going to see. And as a note, we do still have 2 teams in Train and a team both in Drill and Hill Valley. So the northwestern part of this is going to be moving in as well pretty shortly.
Oh, and Gabesmon's actually going to be in a fight over here. This is RCO White. Remember, I mentioned him earlier that currently standing at 10 points. Them and their other RCO brethren are at 10 points apiece. So they have to be careful not to get knocked out early on here. We got only 17 squads remaining, though. Bear in mind, so I would actually say that this is a little bit different in comparison to what we've seen in the past, where I think in the last game we were going to 20 squads left quite late into the game. Now we're seeing some players start to get eliminated early on, and Gabe is going to hit logically from downtown. That was actually going to come from the assist of Monsoon from Complexity. So that means that they're going to be right next to one another here. Perhaps Complexity is going to be able to benefit from the death boxes, as Gabe is going to start to chuck some thermites. There's Reptar backing away. Complexity had just a roaring start at the beginning of the NA Finals, but unfortunately, if you know, haven't had the groove that they've been looking to get into quite yet. Maybe this is going to be that moment for them to start to gain some more points and replicate the success that they found in game number 1.
Ooh, and Gabe, you see, going up against his former teammates there, definitely thought about trying to poke on Complexity in that moment, but instead he's going to just disengage all the way back. RCO was also in Hill Valley with them as well, but he's going to pull all the way back. But Complexity's in an interesting spot here, Golden Boy, because you talked about that first game. They had 17 kill first place, one of the highest stat lines we've seen in ALGS play, period. However, they're now sandwiched between Flying Sorcerers and Fnatic NA in 4th place. And what they need to worry about here is that this series can go one of 2 ways. If they outplay both of those teams, there's a good chance they're going to be sitting comfortably in the top 3, maybe even better. However, if those 2 teams outplace them, we could see Complexity exiting more of a 6th or a 7th, which would be devastating. So it's a big game 5 for them as well.
Yeah, they're going to need this one, without a doubt. There you go. You got Zenio, Gabe, as well as Frankie that are just looking to get some eyes. They know that they're going to be players hanging out about inside of those trailers there, playing around. Also, this crate, he got the Gibraltar using that personal shield to give him a little bit more added coverage here. Zanio's going to get a little aggressive, needing to back away from this fight as he loses out on all of his shields. Gabe is going to be playing on that far right side. He can immediately get to his team if he needs to. Complexity, they're tucked away inside of here. They will have the protection of the Gibraltar shield for the time being, but they are just playing this one out slowly. They also have that Watson generator down in case any ordnance gets flown inside of there. And it seems as if Reptar is struggling for some shield cells. Luckily, his teammate Reptar had his back.
There's a team, by the way, that's you might have seen it in the minimap. Complexity right now is right along this kind of drill side northern wall. There's a team that just flew past them on the western side from Skyhook all the way into Lava Fisher. We don't have an obs on exactly which team that is. We do see it in the minimap, but there's a team that was like, screw this, we are not fighting through at all. We're all the way up. Because Complexity has one of the longest routes in right now. They're all the way still with their back to that Skyhook cliff. The only team with the equally lengthy route are the few teams that are all the way in sorting. Speaking of, we're taking a look at sorting now. Here's Land.
Yeah, they're going to have a long trek out to get to that safe zone. Complexity is going to be relatively close by, so they'll be hanging out by drill site. They were dealing with that fight earlier from RCO, but they back away from it. And they'll just move around, get to that safe zone, use the buildings for some coverage, and see if they can benefit from some of the stuff I had mentioned before, that they were struggling for shield cells. Reptar dropped a few for his squad members. So, you know, they're going to be looking for some resources inside of these death boxes. Just waiting around to see if anyone's going to go in for the challenge here. You got Virus as well alongside his team here. That is going to be Second Nature. They've been a tad quiet, I will say, in this matchup, as they only have 12 points currently. Into the fight we go, though. We'll have that flat line. Manages to get one down onto Teen. Looking for another. Urice is going to be playing around this box here. Needs his teammate for assistance. As Supra pokes around to the outside. Urice is going to be down. Virus is very low as well, as he's going to go in for the challenge. Looking around. See if he can find him. Trying to thirst for the kill. Virus, though, playing around the pillars here. The Gibraltar comes around the left side. This is looking like it's going to be all she wrote there for Virus, but well done on the straight from Virus. I mean, hey, you know, he gets knocked out, but he does manage to hit some jukes, which is always nice on the court.
It is, and Team Squidward is going to be the one that wins that. And I tell you what, neither of those teams wanted to be in that sorting factory battle, given where we are with this circle and then the circles that will follow as well. That is not a fight you want to be taking, and you know that both of those teams were reluctant to engage, but knowing that they really had no choice because they're in such a far-off corner of the map. I tell you what, we talked about it earlier, but coming from Lava Fisher, Drill, also the choke that kind of separates Lava Fisher and Drill, Canyon Pass, excuse me, the name escaped me for a moment. There's a lot of ships passing in the night, just kind of moving around each other, not wanting to engage if they can. But like I said, those outer edge battles are not the ones you want to take. Here's Flying Saucerers, though, and looks like maybe a player dropped. Not sure exactly what might have happened there. That is a tough scenario for them to be in, and they will now try to hold Mirage Voyage.
Yeah, the only team left, I see one team by sorting. That was going to be Squidward, as you noted before, right? They were the ones that went out on that fight. So they're not going to be dealing with anyone for a little while and should have safe passage relatively to get into that safe zone. Relative safe passage, as safe as it could possibly be in a game like Apex Legends.
Yeah.
Then here is...
And a lobby like this.
Yeah, and a lobby like this as well. And now you got... Liquid and TSM, the two teams that everyone is talking about right now. Liquid currently in first place going into the last game. TSM right next to them in second. 48 points for TSM for the 5-time champions. Team Liquid, though. Team Liquid Blue. If they could do this, if they could get this win, it would be massive for this squad.
It'd be huge.
Massive
Huge
for competitive Apex in general.
Exactly. It'd be huge for the scene. It'd be huge for the team. Really can't talk about it enough. But, you know, Golden Boy, there's something that's great about this is that we have so many teams right now set up all around, like I said, Springs End, Bridge, Hot Springs, High Ground. There we see some shots being exchanged across the map, but I'll let you take it away here because Land is pushing in with Noko.
Ooh, yeah, they're going right in there, and the barrage is going to start to come through, and Noko's going to be dangerously low. The EVA, he has to get to it, but he cannot seem to clutch out. I mean, look at the other teams that are going to be around. You can't even ask anything of Noko in that particular situation because he was just surrounded. The only thing that they could do was just try and clean up that fight as fast as they possibly could, but the issue was that not only were they surrounded by enemy teams, but they were also getting hit by that bombardment there from the Gibby ult. So there was just everything that could possibly go wrong in that particular time. And then you got Rogue now. Rogue has actually found a little bit of a resurgence here. They're sitting at 27 points currently. Still very, very strong showing from this team thus far. And there is Nathan. That is going to be the Nathan. Excuse me. That was going to be one of the last cleanups there, and that is NRG's finals over at this time.
Really great play from Drop there. There's a
Well, I should say stand corrected. Not NRG's final. Nathan's run here over at this time. Apologies.
Absolutely. You see them. They're pretty far in the corner right now. They're the team on the bottom right there, right on Thermal Ridge, and they knew they need to make the push off of Thermal Ridge, pick up those kills. They're going to, of course, get the gold armor as well through that. But as we said, things are getting really tight here. There's still a team at Train. There's a team that has not made their way all the way south of Fisher and Canyon Pass just yet. But now 12 squads left, and everyone pretty much claiming all of the real estate around Hot Springs, High Ground, and Mirage Voyage.
So, at NRG, I don't know if you saw there for a brief moment, it looks like they want to get Nathan back into the fold here. They were going over to the death box. 12 squads are going to be remaining, though. Complexity over here in this beautiful high ground position that they're in currently. And Monsoon goes low. Meanwhile, you got Mirko looking, and they're just going to have to start making some moves here as the circle's going to close. And by making moves, I mean they're just going to have to start contemplating where they're going to want to go. They are in the safe zone, but ever so slightly. And then you also have NRG. So yeah, they're going to bring him back. They're bringing their buddy back into this game. So they did manage to get Nathan in it. So I misspoke not once, but 2 times, bravo. Nathan's back in it.
I mean, you weren't wrong to guess that at this late of the game, with as tight as things are, they would not risk trying to get Nathan back in it. But they in this case, they did have a beacon close enough to be able to get that respawn off. So we'll see if they're going to be able to get this. But now back on board with the complexity side.
And a good switch up there. I was going to say from that from the R99, but then you got Mirko just trying to finish this one up there as his teammate Monsoon does go down. Pop that bubble. So they should be able to pick him up. You will have that passive from the Gibraltar that allows you to be able to pick up your teammates faster when inside of the bubble. So they get Monsoon right back up to a fighting position now. Complexity still going to be in this one. 11 squads remaining, Bravo. We're getting down to the final 10 teams, and players have all at this point earned themselves at the very least 1 point. Who's going to be able to lock themselves an additional 2? And who's getting gate kept? Because as it currently stands right now, it is going to be Hollow and the boys as they're being gate kept. The Boba boys can't seem to get back inside as players are preventing them from being able to get into the safe zone. But Kanaka, as well as Banana Bread, have different ideas here. They manage to get a few down. That is going to be Rogue in front of them. But look at all this as Kanaka was just trying to get the cleanup on the player with the gold knockdown shield, and they're just going to get swept through at the final moments there. That was going to be Liquid that swooped on in and claimed those kills.
Absolutely. Now Nathan yet to even find a white. They're going to need to be really careful with how they choose the movements here. Likely the fact that Nathan will be able to, of course, use that Q as well as that Into the Void, essentially to get himself and the team into interesting spots. But they might even see a Wraith armor swap late, depending on exactly what he's able to find through these next few battles. We are now within our top 10. If you're just joining, this is game number 5 of 5 for the Apex Legends Global Series here for the North American Finals. Clock is ticking towards midnight here, but we won't need all that time because, as you see, 9 squads left. This one is going to end before the clock strikes 12, and we will have a winner. Will it be TSM for the 6th straight win, an unprecedented run in not just Battle Royale, but FPS esports here in today's day and age? Or will another team claim the first major victory ever in competitive Apex Legends?
Yeah, just to give context on that, right? What that means, what TSM has been able to do in Apex Legends is simply legendary. Like, it really is. Winning so many competitions the way that they have, and not only just winning the competitions, but it wasn't like, it was a fluke or whatever. You don't fluke 5 times in a row. But it's just the matter of which they go about doing it. The consistent play, they're safe. They know when to pick and choose their battles. And even when it comes down to the hectic end game situations right at the final circle, they know how to play around their abilities. They know how to play around each other. It truly is poetry in motion when you talk about TSM. And I know it seems as if we're constantly praising them, but you have to praise a team in a battle royale of all genres that wins 5 events. 5 events. That is something that is unprecedented across so many different games. I cannot even begin to shape that for you guys.
And this next circle pull is tragic for so many teams here. There's so little cover here just to the east of Mirage Voyage. Any team is now still going to have to move in. Lots of gatekeeping happening here, and this is just wide open. Going to be complete carnage here, Cole.
Yeah, this is the issue that Nathan is going to have, and he somehow is the last person left alive. He has that, that Wraith ability to be able to give him the benefit there because he was able to at least hold out, but oh no, they see him. You got TSM putting down some shots low side here. Playing for that placement is TSM as they're all the way up top. Still going to be relatively safe for at least 1 minute and 17 seconds. But man, that Nathan's still alive. I mean, I give him all the credit in the world, man. He's still very much in this. Frexisto is going to be in a fight as he's trying to stay alive. Nathan has no shields to work with. His teammate's going to be down low. Maybe he could try and bring him back in. It's going to be really risky because they're going to hear that attempted revive, and then they'll know that he's getting picked up. They might try and go for the push, but there it is. So the revive is out. There goes the push. Just as I said, it is going to be sniper abusers from up high. Frexis is so low, and finally, NRG are going to be out of here in Game 5. My word, that, Nathan, I give you all the credit in the world for that one, bud, because you were in the lion's den with just a butter knife.
Absolutely. Sniper Abusers had to work for that one, and work they do. They're going to be able to pick that up. Still Fnatic here. We got to talk about them. They are your 5th place team, tied with Complexity at 38. Once again, they need a very big finish here to finish within the top 3 if they want to exit with one of their better placings in professional Apex Legends here. They're all on blue, and they're sitting pretty here. Going to arc the door and see what they can make happen.
Yeah, they put that nade down by the door just to try and force him out of this. As now it's going to be Fnatic NA on the hunt. Player's going to be downstairs. Oh, but that EVA, he does manage to get through the doorway there. And he's like, nope, I'm just going to get out of here. I got 2 players surrounding me. No reason for me to try and take this one. Smart play there by iShiny. He's going to continue to go for the shots, though. And that was BCJ, as a matter of fact. And I think that might be Snipedown behind him. I'm not too sure. Snipedown did just get a down onto Spirit, and Snipedown will get cleaned up by Muffins.
Keep an eye on the kill feed as well. You're not seeing any TSM on either receiving end of those weapons. How finally picks up a kill there on Reptar in the end, because TSM, they're way too comfortable. If you're hoping for a different victor here in this 6th tournament, we might not see that. But here's Hal. Take a look at this last player alive for TSM, and he's out.
And Team Liquid is still in it, folks. Team Liquid is still in Game 5. TSM is out of here. I cannot believe it. This is it. This is it. I've climbed to the highest mountains. I've seen so many incredible things, but I never thought I'd see the day where TSM would potentially lose out on an Apex tournament. It's just mind-blowing, Bravo. We're alive to see this.
I can't believe it either. Casper, by the way, getting a little bit greedy, just getting a little bit of extra sight, and almost actually gets taken down there by just getting a little bit of extra vision for just a split moment, but he will eventually get that bat off, and he'll be fully healed. Casper's right back in the battle once again. We're going to need to see, of course, the kill points and exactly how things shake out, but Golden Boy, it's looking like this could be a Team Liquid Blue victory if they play these final moments correctly.
Yeah, we're getting down to the wire now, people. It's going to be Liquid. I'm trying to look around to see who's still alive here on all of my different feeds. I believe we got, oh boy, there's just so many players here, and it's a little bit difficult to see it. So we got Flying Saucerers, as well as Team Liquid, and who else we got here, Rob?
Let's go ahead and take a look. We have one of our lower seeded teams here. You can go ahead and keep casting. I'll check to see exactly who we have.
Yeah, well, I'll go ahead and do that because it's boiling down to the moments that matter the most here for Team Liquid. As it currently stands, as far as Shields is concerned, as far as players alive is concerned, Team Liquid has everything working in their favor. Their opponents on the other side, they're going to be feeling it. You have a Watson on one end that's going to have white armor. You're also going to have one of the members of Saucy Store. They're going to be out of this too. They're dangerously low. This is it though. This is looking fantastic now for Team Liquid as they have the high ground, playing around the bubble now. It's going to be Flanker putting in some shots, and that is going to do it. Team Liquid wins. Team Liquid wins. They take game number 5. Wow, what a crazy series of events there. I mean, at that point, my mind melted once I saw TSM just get eliminated. You were talking about how they weren't getting engaged in any fights, and then out of nowhere, they were just getting bombarded by the Gibby ult, and then it was a wrap. They were done, and now Team Liquid is the winner.
And yeah, absolutely. So this is the first time, I will say, in a game number 5 of a tournament that TSM could have won where they did not make the right decision to secure the guaranteed win out of that play. We've seen tournaments, even online tournament number 2 is an example where they didn't necessarily make every play they had to, but they made the plays to win the tournament. As we're going to go ahead and double check our stats here, Team Liquid wins that game also with 7 kills, I believe I did just see. We're of course going to let Lulu and Fallout make the final call, but with those numbers on the board, by the way, GB, you were asking who the third team was. That was Happy Campers Pro.
The Happy Campers.
That's right.
Yeah. I was like scrambling through my doc, just trying to. I was like, what? Because I couldn't see it. It was like the text was tiny, and then glasses, so I couldn't really see what was going on. But crazy stuff. And Liquid played that beautifully. By the way, they had the high ground. They played around someone else's Gibby bubble. Like that was just so smart.
And also Casper, you saw him jumping off that rock with no shields and low HP and almost got dinged again by, I believe it was a scout shot to take him down. If he had gone down, that would have forced a very different final set of circumstances there for Liquid. However, like you said, they played it great. But one of the things I got to talk about is we didn't see TSM in the kill feed. And the reason being is they were trying to late rotate. And even though they had that high ground on the bridge, there were several teams that were still pushing under from the west, pushing west from the east, and TSM just found themselves in the middle of a fray, and Hal could not Hal himself out of that one for what I'll say is the first time ever in competitive Apex. We are not used to seeing that late game. Normally, when a team gets out in 5th place or so, we wouldn't freak out the way we just did, but it's truly the first time that we saw that in competitive Apex, and really it's only thing left to do is tally the kills and make sure that Team Liquid Blue are your victors.
The only other team that's been as consistent as TSM in this whole thing was Team Liquid. A second place finish in game 2, a second place finish in game 3, a second place finish in game 4. And all they needed to do was lock it down in game 5. And they did just that. We'll tally up the final scores, as Bravo said, and find out who is the ultimate winner. But I think we all kind of sort of know. But that's going to do it for myself and Bravo. It has been a wild day here for the North American finals, at least for myself. Things were a little topsy-turvy, Bravo. It was like almost as if I was going crazy for a moment.
I'm happy we had you for the end. It was a pretty, to be honest, it's a pretty historic end, that game 5, because normally we don't, in other esports and other FPS titles, you don't freak out just because some other team won. In Apex Legends, you do. When TSM does not win a game 5 and secure themselves a victory, it's a big deal. This is the first time this ever happened for this game, and it's been out for over a year.
There you have it. Where were you on April 6th, 2020? Well, you were more than likely at home because you have to be practicing social distancing.
Actually, you were almost certainly, undoubtedly at home.
You
like
were
us.
100% at home. So there you go.
Yeah.
Well done. All right, folks, that's going to do it for myself and Bravo. Thank you so much for letting us entertain you for a little while. For now, though, we're going to send it over to your analysts to break it all down and give you some smart people opinions. Fallout, Lulu, over to you.
Thank you so much, Golden Boy Bravo, for bringing home an amazing game number 5. I was not at home. I was personally in Octane's dropship room. Mm-hmm. Lulu, you were joining me, but we are 6 feet apart as we are perfectly socially distancing. And ultimately, a crazy finish, though, Lulu. Team Liquid, with really pure consistency, they performed so well every single game. You heard Golden Boy rattle off their placements, placing top 3, top 4 almost every single game, and ends with the cherry on top, ends with the bang, with some fireworks. A victory and a win for Team Liquid to undoubtedly punch themselves a championship for themselves here in this one. What works so well for this Team Liquid squad?
Honestly, they, like Bravo and Golden Boy said, they played absolutely just consistent with, they were showing up top 5, securing those second places. But, they had great position every single game. We saw them rotating early. They had high ground a lot of the time. Like, they had great loadouts most of the time, too. Like, they really just did everything right. And it really worked for them. They played well, smart, and very, very consistent.
You see the team comp there. Honestly, consistent, early rotations, great positioning. Perhaps taking a page of the TSM playbook and doing it well was Team Liquid. Same exact team comp as well, running, of course, the path comp instead of Gibraltar, which some teams have been running Gibraltar on the EU side more predominantly. But in the NA side, it's really been that path team comp that's been absolutely dominant this time. And for the first time, it is Team Liquid. Of course, you have to give credit where credit is due. 5 straight championship wins for TSM. Team Liquid denies the 6th with a dominant championship win of their own here in online tournament number 3. A massive congratulations to them and a great, great finish for them. TSM ultimately not in the best position in that one. So what did we talk about? What went well for Team Liquid? Well, I want to get your perspective on what didn't go well from TSM. As of course, as we talk about these final standings here, Team Liquid on top with 19 points in a stamp in game number 5 here. TSM in 3rd with 11 points. What didn't go so well with TSM though?
Well, honestly, you saw the usual. They, rotated early, they held a position, and they had just an unfortunate rotate there, rotating between Liquid, and then they had a team behind them, and the team on the ship, they got pinched, and they got taken out, It was just, they did well, and they did things right, but, that was just a hard push, and... Yeah. They passed the crown with that one.
Yeah, they were essentially forced to. And you're right, they rotated early, but it was a really, really tough rotation. They did set up towards mid-bridge and underneath the bridge for quite some time, and they were not the best looted and the best positioned. It doesn't matter what loot they had, though, because you're right, that rotation towards that last ring was just brutal. They, of course, got taken out on that rotation and ultimately got eliminated from this one, but still a 3rd place finish in Game 5. I believe we also have our overall standings. I think we all know where Team Liquid Blue stands. Let's take a look at the overall standings here and see where the rest of the action unfolded for the overall standings, and it was Team Solo Mid right behind them in 2nd place. So when they're not getting first, they're getting 2nd. Again, a massive congratulations to Team Liquid Blue. And by the way, Casper is ill. He is sick and doing this right now, performing in sickness. His teammates, Flanker and co., performed incredibly well throughout. Team Liquid with an amazing performance. Third place, though. You Flying Saucers, you also called them out as a team to watch in this one, and Complexity and Fnatic in 4th and 5th, right behind them, with Energy and Rogue right behind as well. So a lot of our orgs showed up in a big way here. Anything stand out to you, Lulu?
I'm not surprised to see a lot of these people on, the top 10, top 5, etc. The free agent teams that we've been watching, they came out, they performed, especially Flying Saucers. Like, it was awesome watching them play. Complexity had some insane games and then some unfortunate games, but they still played really well. And, we saw NRG and Rogue also come back and, remind everyone why they're also one of the best.
Yeah, you're spot on. And you look at the top 10, and you love to see the consistency that we've seen and the consistency throughout all 5 of our games. The top teams are truly the top teams in competitive Apex, and the consistency and the competitive integrity of Apex truly shines bright. Complexity started strong with a Game 1 win and a 17-kill performance, which, as far as we know, is the highest kill count. They were just mowing up right there in Game number 1, but unfortunately, Complexity was not able to remain consistent here in Game 2, Lulu.
Yeah, but they still, when they played well, they played very well, and they did have some just unfortunate rotates in early games, and a lot of these in-game circles, we were seeing the same 3-5 teams every single time.
In that top 5, you're spot on. Complexity Game 3 also got put in a pretty rough spot, and it was Game 4 where they stepped up in a massive way. Game 3 is when we saw Rogue with a victory of their own. Team Liquid got second place almost every single game before finally getting a victory of their own in Game number 5. With a great showing. Fnatic did win Game number 4, as you see right there. So Fnatic showed some life, and honestly a massive and kind of must-have performance for Fnatic, as we've seen them perform incredibly well in a lot of our preseason invitational, a lot of our tournaments leading up, X Games, etc. But we haven't seen them in a massive way in the Apex Legends Global Series online qualifiers. This time they show up, they get a top 5 finish alongside Complexity, Team Liquid, the Flying Saucers, and TSM in second place. So a lot of names that you're used to seeing, and some interesting highlights there. Is, I gotta tell you, it's been a crazy NA finals here.
It has, and like I've said so many times, just these tourneys where there's a new team every single time winning, and they're neck and neck. It just makes it so exciting to watch, and Liquid was really consistent, and they showed up big that last game. So it just shows, you don't have to win first every single game, every single match. They didn't, but they were consistent in their placement and their kills, and it worked out for them.
Yeah, that's what ultimately made the difference. Yeah, you're spot on. Consistency is obviously important. And you talked about it in the pregame show, you kind of predicted it, the balance between consistency and kills, because you saw a lot of high kill games coming from Team Liquid as well. You saw a really, really high kill game from TSM in Game 4 that really punched them and guaranteed them almost a top 2 finish. So the balance of both, but ultimately, if you're able to make it to late games, you're able to survive, you're guaranteed at least a few kills along the way, because you're able to pick those up in late game and rack up some extra points on rotations, on picks. We saw TSM cross map getting some shots in, Team Liquid trading for some shots as well in that late game. But congratulations, you have to give congratulations where congratulations is due. Team Liquid does the unthinkable and denies the 6-peat. But again, TSM right there in second place is impressive. A massive congratulations, though, goes to our new champions of Apex Legends Global Series. It is Team Liquid Blue. You talked a lot about the free agent teams as well. I know we saw a solid performance from Team Squidward, Flying Saucers. Which free agent teams in your eyes really stood out to you the most, and what do they do so well?
Like we've said, Flying Saucers, they did absolutely fantastic. Team Squidward, also a really strong team. Sniper Abusers, I feel like they are one of the more aggressive teams, like we've said before. It's fun watching them play, but they do get a bit aggressive. Another team that kind of got thrown together was LAN, which is Noko, Zach, and Lurdy. They were making it to pretty close to end game, and they were showing up too. And I think this is the first time they've all played together too, with Zach previously being FlyQuest. But they're another team that I feel like they did a really good job.
Yeah, that's a good call out. We saw them consistently making it to late games. They had a really good semifinal as well. So big shout to No Coco, of course, one of our bigger streamers in Apex, and his former teammate Nicewig is watching at home as well and supporting his boy. So big shout to a lot of our teams here, performed in a massive way. There's been a lot of hype, a lot of excitement, and a big thank you to every single one of you who've watched and tuned in. We had some awesome tweets throughout the entire day using the hashtag ALGS. A lot of hype, a lot of excitement, and I gotta say, the gameplay certainly delivered. Sean Legend on Twitter saying ALGS going crazy. That's for sure. Golden Boy's been going crazy with his cast. Same with Bravo. Everyone else, it's been a crazy day, undoubtedly. We also had Monsoon deliver a really nice tweet. We gave him some love in one of our breakdowns and post-game and analyst perspectives. He said, "What did I do to deserve such lovely humans complimenting me?" So big shout out to Monsoon, showing some love. He's always spreading positivity, Lulu, isn't he? That's what I love most
He
about him.
is. He is a very just kind and generous person, and I see him lifting everyone up around him, and every community needs those kind of members.
And of course, April on AG1 guy saying Apex, the ALGS tourney as a whole vibe. Couldn't agree more with that. Great showing, not only from our players, but also the fans that showed up on Twitter. Of course, you can tweet using hashtag ALGS to have your tweet potentially featured on stream. And a big thank you for engaging and hanging out with us throughout the entirety, as it's been a crazy day from the European finals to the North American finals. Gambit, a big organization over in the European side, they come on top of the win, and we have a new winner in North America. It's Team Liquid Blue. So massive shout out to the Team Liquid organization, one of the most reputable, one of the top organizations in esports all up. They've supported the Apex scene, supported their Apex team, who didn't necessarily, let's talk about the history of this Team Liquid squad, Lulu. Mm-hmm. We haven't seen a ton of top 5, top 7 finishes from Team Liquid, but TL stayed true. They believed in this roster, and this roster worked incredibly hard to get back here, didn't they?
They did, and I just think it's absolutely incredible that Casper's playing sick. That's just, I would not want to have to play in an online tourney after being that sick, but they showed up and they did fantastic. They really did.
Yeah, we're talking about we've been referencing Michael Jordan all day long. Perhaps Casper is the ultimate MJ, battling with sickness and showing up in a grand final. Mm-hmm. And Casper did it in a big way. Again, the entire Team Liquid squad really played incredibly well and showed that, hey, stick with the same roster, stick with the same team, improve upon your placements event over event. They made it to the final of online tournament number 2, had a solid showing. I think they got top 7, I believe, if I remember correctly, in online tournament number 2 or something of the like. So a really, really solid showing. They showed so many moments of greatness. And then ultimately here at online tournament number 3, we saw a final form version of this Team Liquid squad with a really, really solid consistency throughout. Any player or any moment or any game in particular stick out to you with Team Liquid?
I mean, they did well really every game, and I just, their positioning and their early rotates, I guess they learn from the best, with TSM always rotating early, and now we're seeing Team Liquid doing the same, and it paid off. And honestly, just every single game they played smart, and just they did everything right. Honestly, they did really good.
Yeah. So interesting to hear your perspective on big moments. We, of course, have our top 5 highlights ready, where we have 2 Team Liquid clips in our top 5 highlights of the day and our big moments of the day. Let's go ahead and take a look at our top 5 moments in North America. Of course, this was absolutely insane here, Lulu. I believe this is one of the portal saves that we saw come through. We're currently on board with TSM in this one, as Reps & Co. Are able to get some shots in early on. Meanwhile, here's one of the Team Liquid moments we mentioned.
Yeah, that Devo, man. Absolutely shreds. But they were just picking off teams left and right, and again, they had great position here. Even though they didn't win that game, they still were able to pick up a lot of KP.
Yeah, this is a fun moment where you saw 3 box get stacked up on one another as Monsoon with absolutely dominant shotgun work coming through. Meanwhile, we saw here a 2 versus 2 collab, big fight coming in from Teen and Crust, 4 members of E United, currently playing on Team Squidward, who I think got a top 8 finish in this one. 2v2 fight, and it was Team Squidward that came out on top. And of course, our final moment, you have to give love to the big moment, the moment that changed Apex Legends, shook things up. It was when Team Liquid came out on top with endgame 3 versus 3 fight, and crowned themselves as champions in our final #1 moment of North America broadcast. So there you have it, some of our top moments and top clips from the entire day. It's been a crazy 5-game series, a 3-hour broadcast here. We had another 5-game series, 3-hour broadcast of our European tournament. It's been a long day, Lulu. How have you enjoyed being back on the Apex Legends broadcast team?
It's fun. I learn something new every time I do this, even though this is the second time I've ever done this, and the nerves are definitely still there. And like I said earlier, it's definitely not the same as streaming, but it's great. And today we've seen so many great games and just a lot of shakeups and teams we've wanted to see do well, they performed and they did well, and it's just been a great day of absolute insane Apex content.
Yep, I can agree more. In the end, we saw a lot of our top teams, Team Liquid, come out with a win. A lot of our top organizations, Complexity, NRG showed up. But anyone can register. It's an open tournament. Anyone can sign up. That's why we saw a lot of free agent teams and a lot of teams that we're not necessarily, we don't talk about too often. We had teams like Rebel show up, Baba Boys, Boosted Bandits, Second Nature show up in a big way. Of course, you can all register for the next online tournament, which opens tomorrow at 10 o'clock Pacific time. Open registration. If you think you got what it takes in Apex Legends, make sure to register early because those spots do go fast. Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Pacific. Mark your calendars, set your clocks, and get ready for registration, as we'll have a lot more Apex Legends where that came from. You can see the link at the bottom of the screen. Battlefy.com/leagues/ALGS is where you can register. And not only that, but keep up with all the brackets. It's a really, really good overall summary. Lulu, I'm sure you go on Battlefy often and refresh. You can see the updated standings. You can see the updated brackets, where teams are at for each and every tournament we've seen so far to date. You can go back to online tournament 1, 2, and 3 and see how TSM dominated the first two, but a different story this time around.
Yeah, who knows? In this online tournament number 4, we might see Team Liquid become the new back-to-back champs, or we may see I would love to see a free agent team
That'd be insane.
Take home the next win. That's what I'm rooting for, but we'll see.
Grind through the open qualifier tournament on Saturday and the bracket, make it to the finals, and win an entire tournament. That's something we don't see very, very often in esports, but I'm so thankful that EA and Respawn have put together this open bracket format, so really anyone has a chance to compete, to show up in a big way. It could be someone here watching today, so I'm excited to see what happens. An online tournament number 4, registration, of course, starts tomorrow at 10 a.m., but that's going to be it for us on broadcast. Lulu, for your second ever esports broadcast, I was absolutely mind blown. You absolutely crushed it. I remember my second broadcast was not nearly as good as that was, so thank you so much for joining us. But of course, a massive, massive thank you goes out to our entire crew, our production staff, who worked so incredibly hard to make this online, cloud-based virtual broadcast happen. Thank you for all the hard work, the long hours. I'm glad you guys have some pets to make it easy, as we saw in our Look Live to open the show. Big thank you to all of our viewers, the Apex community. We're going to continue to grow and go up and up each and every broadcast. Thank you for tuning in and for joining us. And of course, my fellow casters, both Lulu joining me on the analyst desk, Bravo and Golden Boy killing it. And of course, Rainday and Jamerson bringing the insights and the knowledge. Thank you so much, gentlemen, as always, for an amazing cast, an amazing day. And thank you to the Apex Legends online community for tuning in and supporting the growth of competitive Apex. That is it for myself and Lulu. We will see you guys next time in online tournament number 4. Have a good night, everyone.
Now we're seeing some players